don't understand. President Biden is obviously having a very hard time governing, but millions of Americans do not seem to mind. If the country voted tomorrow for president, Mr. Biden would get more than 50 million votes. He would lose with that, but 50 million is a lot, as Donald Trump might say. And it is the specter of another Trump presidency that is Biden's strongest asset. Joe is not Don. But think about it for a moment. What kind of leader creates a disaster like the open border? Who does that? Even Warren Harding didn't do anything that foolhardy, and Warren was a dunce. And what kind of leader slaps onerous regulations on the fuel industry in the name of global warming, failing to understand that higher energy costs would ignite inflation, which is exactly what happened? Who does that? Not Herbert Hoover, as bad as he was with the Great Depression. He didn't start it. And what kind of a leader calls the Afghan withdrawal a complete success? Jimmy Carter didn't even come close to doing that, and his foreign policy was brutal. So for all you Biden voters, a simple request: please think about what the deuce you are doing. Back in a moment. If you own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles, listen up. CarShield is a low-cost monthly vehicle protection plan now available to you. This protection plan is at an all-time low price. Please call 800-925-7584 for a free quote. Drivers who activate today will also receive free roadside assistance and towing at no additional cost. That is 800-925-7584 right now. That is the Morning O'Reilly Update. More analysis later on.
Where callers won't be canceled.
It's just so ridiculous and so offensive.
And we don't socially distance from differing opinions.
I couldn't disagree with you more.
I haven't always agreed with you.
Free speech is alive and well in America right here.
This country is worth fighting for.
That's why we're canceling those season tickets. That's why we're canceling those subscriptions.
I'm just so sick and tired of it.
Disgust us.
It's insanity, man.
This is News Talk STL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Umbrellas are a must again today as a cold front creeps across our area and brings on and off rain showers. Very little thunder, but you might hear a rumble or two. Into the low 60s for mild highs. Once that front swings through this afternoon, winds turn cooler and the rain chances start to drop. So we're cloudy and breezy overnight, a few light showers possible, but they're spotty. And then gradual clearing for Saturday, but it's cooler and breezy tomorrow. Low of 41, high tomorrow of 50. Full sunshine for Sunday, a frosty start, but a decent high at 58. That's your First Alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
News, analysis, opinion.
A shutdown would cause needless damage.
We haven't even finished this year's budget, let alone work on next year's budget.
101.9 and 94.1.
Under no circumstances does anybody want to shut the government down.
News Talk STL. Get up, St. Louis. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Always be clear where you get your conservative talk.
The St. Louis Business Journal is now reporting that liberal billionaire George Soros is the largest shareholder of Odyssey,
the parent company of KMOX and 97.1 Talk.
Soros' maneuver raises critical questions about the future of media ownership and influence.
Money and attention is power. And when he has the money and he controls what's on the radio stations, he's going to be able to control the minds, potentially hundreds of millions of Americans.
St. Louis's trusted source and number one.
For conservative talk.
This is News Talk STL.
Big news out of the Supreme Court on Monday, and that is that by a 9-0 decision, the efforts in Colorado, Illinois, Maine, you could also argue Hawaii, are basically struck down when they try to remove Donald Trump off of the primary ballot coming up. Now, even if you're not a lawyer, you knew what they were doing was likely unconstitutional. The Supreme Court moved very quickly because there are very large questions that go beyond 2024 and beyond Donald Trump. Let's talk about that and a couple of the other legal entanglements that the former president is in right now with one of his attorneys, part of his legal team. I'm Mike Ferguson. I am now joined by Will Scharf, who is on Donald Trump's legal team. And Will, appreciate you being on the program. First, Just on Monday, Supreme Court comes out and says 9-0 ruling. Illinois, Colorado being the state in question here. Other states cannot remove Donald Trump from the ballot. Let's go with the basics first. Is this sweeping and affects the entire nation? This is not limited to Colorado, as I understand it.
That's correct. This effectively strikes down all of these state efforts that we've seen to push President Trump off the ballot. It's Colorado, it's Maine, it's Illinois, as you said. The Supreme Court spoke with a unanimous voice in rejecting those efforts. These states do not have the ability to hold President Trump off the ballot and frankly frustrate the ability of the American voters to choose who their next president's going to be. So I think this was a great day, a resounding victory for President Trump, but also for the Constitution and the rule of law. And I think it's important not to lose sight of that.
What was it specifically from a legal perspective that the Supreme Court rejected? Was it the definition of insurrection? Was the interpretation of the 14th Amendment? Because as I understand it, and I'm not an attorney, there's room for somebody being kicked off the ballot down the road if they are constitutionally deemed to have violated, something, but they just said this ain't it.
So what the core holding of the Supreme Court's opinion is that states lack an independent ability to enforce Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. That's this insurrection provision. So while Congress could pass a law, as they did in 1870, actually, to bring into effect that provision of the 14th Amendment, states can't just go out all willy-nilly and make a decision about who's an insurrectionist and who's not. That's not the process that the 14th Amendment sets up. And the Supreme Court spoke pretty decisively on that point. In terms of the path going forward, the majority, the per curiam opinion here, which 5 justices signed on to, seems to indicate that Congress would have to pass new legislation to bring into effect this provision of the 14th Amendment. We agree with that, of course, and I think it's highly unlikely that that will occur on any sort of time frame that could affect the 2024 election. So all in all, this is a resounding win. It's a vindication of the core system of federalism that we believe underlies the 14th Amendment here. Yeah, for all intents and purposes, I think this issue is done and dusted and resolved. Certainly for the purposes of the 2024 election.
Is the fact that it was 9-0 completely unanimous important in a different way, or does that matter beyond the legal sphere?
Justice Barrett, in her concurring opinion, said that that's exactly the message that the American people should take away from this decision, that on this core question of constitutional law, the Supreme Court was ruling unanimously. And I think that's really important because we've heard breathless commentary from leftists and the mainstream media that Trump's an insurrectionist and he needs to be kicked off the ballot. We've heard even pretty serious legal commentators on the left give air and give voice to this argument that he could be kicked off the ballot for years now. And even Justices Kagan and Sotomayor and Ketanji Brown Jackson said that's just not the way the system works. So I think it's great that we won. I think it's even better that this was a unanimous decision that hopefully the whole country will be able to accept and come around to and see as the correct legal judgment that it was.
Is there anything that a candidate could be kept off the ballot for in future elections? Because like I said, this isn't about necessarily just 2024 or Donald Trump, although that's obviously the main focus right now. But this is setting a standard for future elections.
That's correct. With respect to this insurrectionist argument, you would need to see implementing legislation passed by Congress and signed by the president through the normal process that bills go through that would set up a process to do that. That's actually what Congress did in 1870 and what they haven't done more recently. That's what the court seems to be queuing on, that the 14th Amendment sets up a system. That system hasn't been followed here. And it's a system that would be difficult to implement now. I think the court doesn't want to set up a situation where candidates can be held off the ballot through all but the most serious processes. So that's the situation going forward. I think it's very, very unlikely that you're going to see this issue litigated again anytime soon. And I think that's good for the country. I think the situation that we were in prior to this judgment, where state officers without any due process, without any, certainly without any criminal prosecutions, without really much of anything, felt empowered to make decisions for the American people about who could and couldn't be on the ballot. That's untenable just from the perspective of our constitutional system. So I think this is just a very, very good decision in terms of putting America on the correct constitutional path going forward for our election system.
We are visiting with Will Scharf, who is part of Donald Trump's legal team, legal counsel. Let me ask you about a different case, the D.C. case at this point. This is Jack Smith's, obvious for those who want to look up and keep track of the different cases against the former president. The argument that your team, what Donald Trump is arguing, is that he has immunity from actions taken while he was in office. Presumably, any president would have immunity from prosecution for actions taken in office. That seems like a real far reach for a lot of people to grasp or get on board with. What is it that you're arguing to the court, or that the team is arguing to the court, regarding immunity for a president?
So it's a little more limited than what you just said, Mike. What we're arguing is that for a president's official acts in office, acts that fall within the legal term is the outer perimeter of a president's responsibilities as president, that he can't be criminally prosecuted unless he's first impeached and convicted by the House and Senate. That's the system that we believe the Constitution sets up. Obviously, no president other than President Trump has ever before been indicted, or there's never been an attempt at criminal prosecution for those sorts of official acts. So we believe that's just the system, and that's how it works. Presidents have civil immunity for their official acts. They can't be sued over their official acts in office. We believe that the same applies in the criminal context. The Supreme Court obviously has taken that issue up. We'll be arguing that in late April this year. And we feel that our arguments are very, very strong. This goes back to the earliest days of the Republic. Chief Justice Marshall in Marbury v. Madison says that the courts cannot sit in judgment over a president's official act. So we think that the law is definitely on our side there. But again, it's important to note that this is just about a president's official acts. If a president were to commit a private crime, if he were to, for example, kill somebody or something like that, or burglarize a house, those would be private acts and immunity would not apply. We're talking squarely about official acts. That's what President Trump has been indicted for in that D.C. prosecution. Acts like instructing the Department of Justice to investigate election fraud, or talking to members of Congress about election fraud. Those are core Article II responsibilities of the president. And for acts like that, we believe that a president does have criminal immunity the same way that he would have civil immunity.
Okay, we just got a minute or so left here. Well, I'm glad you put it that way, because one of the things that has been argued by some even conservative pundits is that the argument is that no president could be prosecuted essentially for anything while they're in office. And I think that's the imagery that's being put out to the public. And what I'm hearing you say is no, only for the decisions he made as president in an official constitutional role.
We're talking about official acts. The term in Nixon v. Fitzgerald, which is the key civil immunity case, is acts that fall within the outer perimeter of a president's official responsibilities. If that weren't the rule, then you could see a situation where every future president is indicted by his political rivals essentially as soon as he leaves office. You could see a situation where President Obama is indicted for murder for drone strikes that he ordered, or President Bush would be indicted for acts relating to the Iraq War. President Biden would be indicted for acts relating to the border. Maybe that would be a good thing. But the constitutional system, we believe it's pretty clear that for those sorts of prosecutions to go forward, you first have to clear the hurdle of impeachment and conviction by Congress. That's the system that the Constitution sets up, and we're seeking to vindicate that core constitutional balancing in this argument that we'll have in front of the Supreme Court next month.
Okay, Will, real quick, before we let you go here, obviously running for Attorney General as well. When you look at what the Attorney General needs to be doing in Missouri, what are the biggest things that you'd like to see done better, done differently, stop being done as Attorney General? Essentially, you're asking the voters to replace the current Attorney General with you. Why is that?
Well, the current Attorney General is appointed. He's never been elected before, and I think that's important. But more importantly, what we've heard from Missourians across the state is deep, deep dissatisfaction with the Jefferson City establishment that I believe has been running this state into the ground for a very long time. We have a real problem with lobbyist and special interest capture. We have a real problem with our political culture in Jefferson City. I'm not a Jefferson City insider. I don't come from that world. I think we need decisive conservative leadership at all levels in this state if we're going to make this state look more like other conservative states like Florida and Texas that have seen so much success in recent years. We have a real problem in Jefferson City, and I don't think promoting and appointing the same people and electing the same people who have run this state into the ground is going to fix that problem.
One of the biggest things over the last few years with attorneys General Bailey, and then before that, obviously, Eric Schmidt, has to do with looking at other governments when they're violating people's rights. We saw that during COVID. What's the right role of the Attorney General's office when it comes to local governments violating people's rights versus the local control argument we heard so much?
You look, during COVID, all of the craziness we saw with school closures, with mask mandates, with vaccine mandates, with local county health orders, all of that could have been stopped with a single one-page order from the governor's office and the State Department of Health and Senior Services. The Parson administration did some good things at the start of COVID. We didn't have a total lockdown the way that other states did. But then as COVID dragged and dragged and dragged, we saw real inaction from the governor's office that allowed local school districts, that allowed county governments, that allowed local officials to run roughshod over Missourians' rights. Andrew Bailey was obviously the governor's general counsel during that period. I think that failure of leadership is a very significant one, and one that we should call out at every opportunity. There was no need for kids to be kept out of school in some places for years. There was no need for businesses to be shut down, for churches and synagogues to be closed. This was a completely invented, unnecessary tragedy that decisive conservative leadership in Jefferson City could have prevented. As Attorney General, I'm always going to stand in the breach to defend Missourians' rights, whether that's against the federal government, whether that's against local or state bureaucrats as well. I think it's really important that we have government that fights for the rights of every Missourian. And I think, unfortunately, we just haven't seen that out of Jefferson City in recent years.
Okay, what's the website, social media? People want to learn more about your campaign, what you're doing. How do they get in touch?
You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Truth Social at Will Scharf, and our website is votescharf.com.
Will, thank you for all the time today.
Yeah, appreciate it, Mike.
All right, what do you think? 314-912-1019. Interesting change of pace that's got me rethinking a part of my position after that conversation. When I was asking Will Scharf about the immunity claim just a few minutes ago, and he says, whoa, we're not asking for immunity from anything somebody does while they are the president of the United States, only for immunity from criminal prosecution over decisions they made. Okay, well, if that's what it's limited to, I can buy that. I just don't want to get in a position where somebody gets elected president and they feel like they are above the law, both in public life and private life.
For podcast articles and more, find us on newstalkstl.com. Subscribe and watch your favorite News Talk STL shows.
Mike Ferguson in the morning, The Vic Porcelli Show, Columbo and Katie, Jones and Arps.
Webcam streaming on Facebook, Twitter, Rumble.
Subscribe and watch
News Talk STL.
Hi, Sean Long from STL Fenceworks. A new fence or deck is an investment in your home and your lifestyle. But how do you ensure that you're getting the most out of that investment? At STL Fenceworks, we know the key is satisfaction. Satisfaction means getting a fence or deck that not only meets your needs, but exceeds your expectations. Satisfaction means working with a team that cares about your project as much as you do. Satisfaction means having confidence in the quality of your new fence or deck, knowing that it was built with the best of materials and workmanship. STL Fenceworks, your satisfaction is our passion. And for me, satisfaction is knowing that providing for your family is how I provide for mine. Visit STLFenceworks.com and experience the satisfaction in making your backyard dreams into a reality.
News Talk STL is proud to have Doug Voss as part of our lineup every week. Doug has been a staple on St. Louis radio for many years as one of the leading financial experts in the area. You can hear Doug and Safe Money Radio 3 times every weekend on News Talk STL. And in case you miss anything, you can check it all out at DougVossSafeMoneyRadio.com. What else do our listeners need to know, Doug?
Simply put, I focus on helping pre-retirees and retirees build, preserve, and protect retirement assets, and I've been helping my clients solve their insurance and financial needs for the past 33 years. I also strive to educate my clients on how to prepare for retirement, minimize the impact of market volatility on their assets, and deal with the challenges of increased longevity. Call me today at 844-676-SAFE. That's 844-676-7233.
Doug Voss is a registered representative. Securities offered through DHL Securities, LLLP, member FINRA and SIPC.
I am an atheist.
I really am a liberal,
but I'm also a conservative.
No matter your side.
I'm a Democrat. I'm just a bit angry, frustrated conservative.
No matter your inclination.
I'm probably a liberal, maybe more in the middle.
We are here for your place to talk about it.
I'm the progressive liberal Democrat that you said is afraid to call you.
St. Louis is #1 for conservative talk.
And I'm sure we'll have a robust conversation.
News Talk STL. This is Larry Connor's commentary on News Talk STL.
So with Nikki Haley officially out of the battle, it's now on between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. That's assuming Joe Biden does carry the Democrat banner out of the Chicago convention. Things could change. But otherwise, it comes down to Trump versus Biden and, of course, their supporters. The editor-in-chief of The Hill publication says it is going to be a muddy, dirty fight. And in fact, the editorial board of the New York Times already calling it out, saying this is a tragedy for the Republican Party. Trump has demonstrated contempt for the Constitution and rule of law. Already no holds barred, apparently, at least from the state-controlled media. But what about you? What kind of presidential fight do you want? Do you want one with civility, tea, maybe some crumpets, follow the Marquess of Queensberry rules, no spitting, no eye gouging, no hitting below the belt. Just trade words, ideas, philosophy, and stick to the script which we expect to hear and see. Is that what you want? Civility like that? Or are you really ready now to rumble with a cage match?
Get more Larry Connors on Larry Connors USA.
Tonight at 6 on News Talk STL.
So many ways to listen to News Talk STL.
Come join the conversation.
Enable our Alexa skill. Hey, Alexa, play News Talk STL.
Welcome to News Talk STL, conservative talk radio for St. Louis.
Always streaming at newstalkstl.com or on your radio at 1019, 94.1, and 99.1 HD3. News Talk STL. News, analysis, and opinion. Welcome home.
If you're considering an annuity as part of your retirement plan, we need to talk. Hi, I'm Bob Stockdale, Senior Vice President Investments with the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stiefel and host of On the Money Saturday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL 1019. Annuities can be a useful tool for some retirement investors, but not all annuities are created equal. Every week, we meet clients who own complex annuities that don't suit their needs and, in some cases, actively undermine their retirement plan. Before you purchase an annuity, get a second opinion from the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stiefel. Requesting a consultation is free of charge. To request a free consultation, contact us at clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com, or call us at 636-695-2650. That's clearpathinvesting.com or 636-695-2650. Stiefel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member NYSE and SIPC.
It's a new year, so come check out the great financing offers going on now at Seavers JCB. Rates as low as 0.99% on nearly all JCB compact construction equipment, including the industry-leading JCB Teleskid. For details, go to SeaversJCB.com. Mini excavators, track loaders, small wheel loaders, and even the industry-leading JCB compact load all range. Seavers JCB has them all. Visit SeaversJCB.com for more information.
So we finally got the parts for the time machine. Classic Kicks Country is streaming now. Hear all your new country favorites from the 90s. Streaming as it happened in the 90s. Classic Kicks. Download the Classic Kicks app from the App Store. Online at ClassicKicks.com. Or enable the Classic Kicks skill on Alexa. 90s new country streaming now.
I heard the call to serve, so I answered. I earned a title and discovered my purpose. I found belonging, an unbreakable bond with my fellow Marines. We fought to overcome adversity together in defense of our nation and its people. I've lived a full life, rich with meaning. And even though I no longer wear the uniform, I am still a Marine. My service has come full circle. I will always look after those around me. I will always uplift and support my country and my community. Because that is the promise I made. That is what it means to be a Marine. Semper Fidelis. Always faithful, always Marine.
Tony Colombo here, reminding you to join us for the Bluff City Outdoors radio show and podcast, where we talk fishing, hunting, camping, and everything else involving the great outdoors. Brought to you by Bluff City Outdoors in Alton, the Bluff City Outdoors Show, Saturdays at 11 a.m., right here on News Talk STL.
You can't buy a best friend. You can love them, walk them, pet them, and care for them, whether they want you to or not. You can take a picture or 50. You can fly to the moon, travel the world, or just stay in bed. You can't buy a best friend like that, but you can adopt one. There are millions of pets waiting for a best friend just like you. Help us save them all at bestfriends.org.
Number one for live and local
Conservative talk.
They always have great conversations.
news, analysis, and opinion.
Joe Biden kicking Commander out of the White House. Documents show Commander Biden bit and attacked Secret Service members at least 24 times.
It's not the dog, it's the owner.
It's just one more aspect of the whole Russian misinformation campaign.
They're willing to carry any water for Trump.
We're going to lose our country, and we have to do something.
101.9 and 94.1.
St. Louis is number one for conservative talk.
News Talk STL.
What grows in the forest? Trees? Sure. Know what else grows in the forest? Our imagination, our sense of wonder, and our family bonds grow too. Because when we disconnect from this and connect with this, we reconnect with each other and build family memories we will carry with us forever. The forest is closer than you think. Find a forest near you and start exploring at discovertheforest.org. It's easy. Just put in your zip code to find family-friendly outdoor destinations near you. You'll also find guides to free activities, games, and amazing forest facts. Give the magic of the outdoors to your kids and reconnect with your family. Find a forest near you at discovertheforest.org. That's discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Live and local.
Well, here's what's on my mind. I think I got the solution to immigration.
News Talk STL. News, analysis, opinion. KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 101.9, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason. Being described by some in the media as feisty, President Biden's State of the Union speech being decried by Republicans as a divisive, screaming rant, although they do seem to agree with the president on at least one point.
Not since President Lincoln and the Civil War have freedom and democracy been under assault at home as they are today.
True, say Mr. Biden's GOP critics, and they blame him for that sad state of affairs. The official Republican response to the speech, delivered by Senator Katie Britt of Alabama, who just happens to be at the opposite end of the age spectrum from Mr. Biden.
At 42, Britt is the youngest Republican woman ever elected to the U.S. Senate. She says she was unimpressed by the president's address.
And what we saw was the performance of a permanent politician who has actually been in office for longer than I've been alive.
Britt says Biden proves he's out of touch with problems facing American families, who she says are worse off and less safe than when he took office. Bob Agnew reporting.
And former President Trump continues hammering away at Biden for an open border policy that Mr. Trump says is endangering the safety and the security of all Americans as millions of illegal aliens, including criminals, wind up in communities nationwide. Mr. Trump says that one of his top priorities would be to secure the border again and to deport those who broke the law by entering the country. 3 more Houthi rebel drones targeting the Gulf of Aden shot down by the U.S. military. We'll be getting the latest job numbers this morning when the government releases the February employment report. Economists predict it will show the addition of some 200,000 jobs last month, following 353,000 jobs added in January. On Wall Street, Dow futures are down 78 points. NASDAQ futures off 35. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Not to brag, but Progressive's Name Your Price tool is mankind's greatest tool ever. Even better than the wheel. Sure, without the wheel, we wouldn't have modern transportation or funny videos of dogs riding skateboards. But without the Name Your Price tool, we wouldn't have easy access to auto insurance options based on our budget. And, well, cars do need wheels. They also need insurance, and insurance never goes flat. Learn more about the greatest tool ever, the Name Your Price tool at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law, not applicable in all states.
Relief Factor, pain relief that's natural, pain relief that works, and pain relief that attacks the source of the pain. That's the experience of tens of thousands of Americans who are taking Relief Factor right now. See their incredible video endorsements at ReliefFactor.com and then order your 3-week quick starter pack for just $19.95. That's less than $1 a day. Find out if it can work for you like it works for me by ordering your 3-week quick starter pack today. ReliefFactor.com, ReliefFactor.com.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Umbrellas are a must again today as a cold front creeps across our area and brings on and off rain showers. Very little thunder, but you might hear a rumble or two. Into the low 60s for mild highs. Once that front swings through this afternoon, winds turn cooler and the rain chances start to drop. So we're cloudy and breezy overnight, a few light showers possible, but they're spotty. And then gradual clearing for Saturday, but it's cooler and breezy tomorrow. Low of 41, high tomorrow of 50. Full sunshine for Sunday, a frosty start, but a decent high at 58. That's your First Alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Rodney and Jen Wallner and the entire Wallner home selling team at Berkshire Hathaway. Call them today at 314-810-SOLD. 314-810-SOLD.
1949, the last time a Republican held the top post in St. Louis City. A gallon of milk was 84 cents, and streetcars ran down Grand Avenue. The city was booming. Unfortunately, St. Louis city streets are no longer the epicenter of family and business life. In the 80 years of Democrat control, our city has been on a steady decline. St. Louis City Republicans believe it is our duty to provide a different path forward. Learn more at stlouisrepublicans.com.
Paid for by St. Louis City Republican Pat Curtis, Farber Treasurer.
Do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes? Are you being audited or investigated? Has the IRS sent you a letter demanding payment? You may not owe what they claim. Make this free call to the tax doctor now. Let them negotiate with the IRS on your behalf.
800-240-4586. 800-240-4586. That's 800-240-4586.
St. Louis's place to talk.
The American people have further lost faith in our governmental institutions.
People can decide what they want and how they want to live.
News Talk STL. News, analysis, opinion. Mike Ferguson.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Gabe Pfeiffer.
We have a hope.
Get up, in case you hear the alarm. Get up.
What do you call a genius in President Biden's Homeland Security Department? A visitor.
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
Get up, in case you hear the alarm. Get up.
It's Friday.
It's Susie Moore.
Now we're awake. Hey,
Yep.
Good morning, folks. It is Friday. And Susie Moore here filling in for Mike Ferguson on the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show on News Talk STL. Glad to be with you today. We've got so much to talk about.
Lots of things.
Lots of things, many of them having to do with last night's State of the Union address, which we will get to, I promise. We've got a couple good guests. We've got one of my RedState colleagues, Bonchi, is going to be joining us later on to talk about not only State of the Union, but some of the other stuff going on right now. Nick Schroer is going to join us in the 8 o'clock hour to talk about what's going on in the Missouri legislature, and I have some important questions for him. So we got all kinds of good stuff to talk about. Obviously, there's lots going on in the world. There's no such thing as a slow news day anymore. But obviously, the front and center thing that's going to be top of mind for most people today on this Friday is the State of the Union address last night. And I am anxious to talk to both Gabe and Stell and see what their takeaways were and kind of go over some of that stuff. You are listening to us on News Talk STL. You can listen to us on the radio. You can listen to us online. You can watch us on Facebook, on Twitter, and YouTube, I believe. Rumble, I know. All kinds of ways to watch us. And if you, for whatever reason, can't listen to the whole show or watch the whole show, you can actually download the podcast later on and listen to that. So there's all kinds of ways to keep up with us. We appreciate you doing that. We appreciate you being here. All right.
With that said,
can you tell I was like trying to get through that because I really want to get to this. I watched the State of the Union address last night. RedState, we did a live blog. So we had all of our contributors, kind of commenting, doing a running commentary during it. And we were interacting with our readers and our commenters. And, of course, we were writing articles about it, too. It's amazing. You have to wear lots of hats during these things. So there was
Did you pull an all-nighter?
I did not. No, because I knew I had to be here. Okay. So I stayed up long enough to watch Katie Britt give the rebuttal and to get my more to the point, which we'll be running today, to get that ready to go so it would publish. And then I said, okay, no mas. So I think I got probably like 4.5 or 5 hours of sleep, which is not horrible.
Pretty good.
Yeah,
that's something.
I'm here.
It's something.
I don't need a nap yet, but maybe, check in with me at 8:30. We'll see. Hopefully we'll have so much to talk about. It will keep me wide awake. So no, I knew better than to try and pull an all-nighter. I've done that before. It's not pleasant.
No. You can't do what you did when you were younger.
When you were in
college. Yeah, exactly.
Right. Well, I as the mother of a soon-to-be college graduate, she graduates in May. Every once in a while, she'll be like, "Oh God, I had to pull an all-nighter," and I'm like, "Oh, poor baby."
Your body actually recovers from those things.
Yeah. I cannot do that. But yeah, it was a late night, and there was a lot going on. And I'm sure most of our listeners watched at least parts of it or saw snippets of it being discussed online. I guess, the big takeaway from me, and I know I'm not alone in this, was that I felt the entire time like I was being yelled at. I really did.
Like yelled at?
Scolded, yelled at. And part of that is because I don't care for Joe Biden's policies. I don't agree with almost anything that comes out of his mouth. And I'm very disappointed in his presidency and some of his personal behavior as well. And so I don't like, I'm not going to like it. I get that. But the delivery was just like, I really was like, stop yelling at me.
Like I didn't do anything.
I didn't do it.
I mean, when I got up this morning to come in, my first thought was, has he stopped shouting yet?
Exactly. Yeah. So here was the suspense. Okay, I'm going to give you guys give a big confession here.
Oh, okay.
You guys are going to realize what a complete dork I am. So, okay, last night was Thursday. Wednesday night, I'm talking to my RedState colleagues, and I was like, I just got this really weird, premonition flash that he's not going to actually deliver the address tomorrow night.
Whoa.
And I don't know if that's going to be because there's a disruption or something. I don't know. I just got this flash. And they're like, okay. I'm like, if I'm right, if I'm wrong, you guys can make fun of me. So last night when it became clear that he was going to give the address, I'm like, okay, so we know I'm not Miss Cleo. That was just some random weird synapses firing
Cleo.
off.
I forgot about her.
You want my story from Kathy last night,
Yeah.
which is a little bit similar to yours? She said before everything started, she noticed a story about some protesters blocking the route to the Capitol from the White House. My first thought was, isn't there an underground tunnel or something that he would take? And she goes, I don't know, but I bet he's getting supposedly into his car. What would happen if he couldn't get there? Do you think maybe they pre-recorded it and they did it somewhere else and then they put live on the screen? And I said, well, wouldn't that be interesting? Obviously, it didn't work out that way. But she was also wondering if something would happen.
Well, and she wasn't alone in that because, in the lead up to it, at least if you were watching Fox's coverage of it, one camera was in the chamber, and of course all of the dignitaries and the politicians and their guests and everything had filed in, an hour before. And one camera was on the south entrance of the White House, which is where he was anticipated to be coming out from. And it was just the archway. There was no activity. And it's 7:30 our time, and there's no activity. And it's a 10-minute drive from the White House to the Capitol. There is no underground tunnel between those two structures. There is a whole bunch of them around the Capitol, but in between the White House and the Capitol, there's not. But obviously, when you've got a presidential motorcade, the way is going to be cleared, and it's going to be a straight shot once he's ready to go. So it's not a very long drive. But 7:30, there's no sign of him. 7:40, I'm like, hey, guys, did you guys notice that he's still not, And
tick, tick.
You're right. And then it's 7:45, and I'm like, did I really have this premonition?
So you're thinking, yeah.
Something going on.
Wow.
Finally, probably around 10 till, there started to be some activity. You saw some of the grandchildren come out. You saw some movement. You saw people walking quickly. People in business suits walking quickly.
Okay.
I'm like, okay, they know that they're kind of like, running a little bit late. And finally, he and Jill come out. He did his little wave to the cameras and stuff. He looked up. There was somebody up on the upper terrace level, and he did his standard, "Don't jump, I need you."
Oh, yes.
I mean, I'm sorry. Every time he does one of those stupid jokes like that, I'm like, he's so grandpa.
Yeah,
It's
yes.
like the same joke over and over again.
We didn't have that on the bingo card game.
No, we did not have that one on the bingo card.
It's not
Don't
even
jump.
funny to begin with.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
then it's like, okay, we've heard you do this a bunch of times.
Like,
and
please-
it's
please
still
don't.
Not funny. So they get in the car. So it's like, okay, he's going. But he started the speech later than he was scheduled to. And that's kind of stock and trade for Joe Biden. He is not a particularly punctual person. And he's not the only one that's like that, but, The other thing that was interesting is after he makes his way into the chamber and he's shaking everybody's hands and all that fun stuff, he gets up to the podium and he's supposed to give the speech to Mike Johnson, to the speaker, and then the speaker is supposed to formally introduce the president. There's a stock thing that they say. And he's getting ready to say it, and Joe just goes right to the microphone and starts talking.
Oh, wow.
So he completely missed his cue. But,
Oh, wow. Oh, my
okay.
gosh. Well, somebody sent them. He's like, okay, go straight to the.
Well, yeah.
It's like you're trying to send that 3-year-old down the aisle during the wedding ceremony. He's
right.
like, okay, go
I think
straight to.
they had a pretty narrow window in which they could work as far as whatever, caffeinated way they made sure that he was going to be alert and energetic. And
He was
keep
juiced.
his energy up. Look, I hate to speculate. I'm not a doctor, but the energy level was high. But I know that if that was artificial, there's a limited window that's going to work. And, you compare that side by side. Sean Hannity did this afterwards. They compared side by side the energy of the speech, which was very high energy, very high volume, kind of almost manic at times, versus some of his, appearances elsewhere where he kind of trails off and gets lost and that sort of thing. And it's a noticeable difference.
Yes.
Some of that could just be adrenaline. You're going to be amped up for an event like this.
I suppose so.
I'm trying to give as much benefit of it as doubt as possible, but some of it seemed to be enhanced. Let's just say. And I don't know if Hunter had anything to do with that,
Or Commander.
yeah. Right. Maybe they had Commander biting him behind him the whole time.
Busy
That's why he
chasing
was
that guy
yelling.
around.
But so it was kind of an interesting performance. I think he talked for an hour and 7 or 8 minutes and so it wasn't quite as long as last year's, but it wasn't a super short speech. He kind of just did like a laundry list of not grievances, but issues. Some of them were grievances, issues. And right out of the gate, he made it partisan. It's naive to think that a president who's running for re-election isn't going to take the opportunity of the State of the Union to make some partisan points.
Of course, yeah.
Of course. That's presidential privilege. But it was very starkly partisan. He said, he, of course, did not say Donald Trump's name, but he referred to my predecessor.
13 times.
13 times. I was going to say, someone kept a tally. I guarantee it was a dozen times.
Yeah.
And
Baker's dozen.
At one point, yeah.
Yeah.
At one point, I was like, "Oh, you mean the predecessor who like had energy independence, no foreign wars?
Yeah.
We had a booming economy. We had a controlled southern border. That predecessor,
Exactly. That's what you're talking
about.
about. Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I mean, it was so. As a Republican, as a conservative, as somebody who is not going to be voting for him in November, yeah, I mean, it kind of puts you back on your heels a little bit. It was not a welcoming, let's all find the common ground and move forward. And there weren't even any. He made a comment towards the very end after he'd ranted for an hour about unity, but it was like,
oh, now we want to talk about.
well, wait a second, you just yelled at me for an hour. Now you want me to be your friend? I don't know.
Did you feel like it was more of a campaign speech as opposed to a State of the Union?
Definitely had that feel to it. Definitely,
I thought
did.
so too.
I think the expectation bar was pretty low.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Because he's so prone to gaffes and so has such difficulty with his speech and stuff that I think people were like, is he gonna like get through it?
He's gonna make
Is
it.
he
Yeah.
physically gonna get through it?
Right.
And he did. So he met that, but it was a low bar to begin with. I'm sure the people that agree with him think he did great. And
Oh,
are
sure.
excited about his energy. The people who don't agree with him thought he did horrible. The real question is going to be, what about the people who are in the middle or undecided?
Yeah.
That's going to be the real crux of it. And I know we'll get a chance to talk about it more as we go on through the show. We'll certainly talk about it with Banshee, and I've got a couple other articles that we've got up talking about it too. So we will come back and visit that here on the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show. You're listening to us on News Talk STL 94.1, 101.9.
Don't try to make me stop. No inspiration. You have a soul so dark. It is no more.
We give you news, analysis, opinion, and more. Only on News Talk STL.
Hold my heart to fight your war. Stop it right now.
Get up. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning.
I see your indifference. Stop it right now before you blow us all away. You wanna do that now? Get up, can't you hear the alarm? Get up, this is your cousin Bob. Get up.
This is Rob with St. Louis Bath and Renovation, and we'd like to let you know you don't have to maintain the grout in your home anymore. The grout on the floor or in your shower or bath area. How would you like zero grout in your bathroom? At St. Louis Bath and Renovation, we focus on grout-free options for your bathroom. If you hate cleaning grout, St. Louis Bath and Renovation, 314-477-6476. 314-477-6476. Give us a call.
Spring into green with Seidenberger Nobe Partners. Accelerate your productivity with one of our John Deere compact tractors. Right now, take advantage of 0% financing for 84 months with zero down, featuring payments as low as $210 a month. From landscapes to farming, these compact tractors can handle a variety of tasks. Seidenberger Nobe, your partner for the land. snpartners.com.
Offer valid through 4/26/2024. Some restrictions apply. See dealer for details.
Hey, Colombo here for Intervine, a great local company that has customers all across the country due to the quality of their products. Intervine has the best flashlights, lanterns, headlamps, and even batteries, including the new Monster 2000 Lumen waterproof lantern and the Sentinel 2000 self-defense flashlight. Our home and vehicles are full of great Intervine products, and right now you can shop their website and get 25% off your entire purchase just by using my name, Tony, as your promo code. That's promo code Tony at Intervine.com.
I'm Susie Moore, and this is More to the Point.
Thursday night, President Joe Biden delivered his State of the Union address, the third and hopefully last of his tenure. Ahead of the address, we were treated to glimpses of Biden's intended message, most notably, whose side are you on? I was struck by the irony of Biden talking about sides in the context of remarks about our union. Think about that for a second. Union is defined as a club, society, or association formed by people with a common interest or purpose. And yet, from the previews of the anticipated theme of his address, and based on similar speeches he's given in the past, the president elected to speak of our union in terms of division. No doubt there are times when drawing stark contrasts between your own stances and those of your political opposition is warranted. When campaigning, for instance, at political rallies. But is that the intended purpose of the State of the Union address? Gather Congress and various guests and the nation together so you can expound upon why half of those listening and watching are your enemies?
Whose side am I on? That's an easy one for me, Joe. I'm on the side of America and its people. What about you?
Susie Moore is Deputy Managing Editor for RedState.com. For more to the point and everything Susie Moore, log on to RedState.com. Follow Susie on Twitter @SmoozyQ and keep listening to 1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL. This hour of Mike Ferguson in the Morning is brought to you by Stifel. Request a portfolio review from your Stifel financial advisor at Stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Hey everyone, this is State Senator Nick Schroer. I am the host of Stand and Fight every Sunday night. Right now, let's hear more of Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show here on News Talk STL.
It's Flashback Friday.
My favorite.
Taking you back.
Taking me back. I mean, this is right in my wheelhouse. I was in high school in the 80s, so this is right there with it. Welcome back, folks. You're listening to the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show on News Talk STL. I'm Susie Moore, filling in for Mike today, and enjoying the Flashback Friday tunes. We could just play that all day long. I'd be happy with that. And if you're watching us on the live stream, you can see I'm kind of dancing around with my great dance moves. So, be sure to tune in and watch those. We were talking before the break about the State of the Union address. Easy for me to say. What am I, Joe Biden? But and we have much more to talk about in regard to that. But we've got some other topics to talk about too. But I do want to hit on one thing because Sel, you brought this up. The protesters. There were protesters out that were blocking the way in some respects between the White House and the Capitol. And, of course, they were there to protest the administration's stance on Israel and call for a ceasefire. And I think that may have arguably been part of the reason for the delay and why he was a little bit late, because they wanted to make sure they had everything clear to get him where he needed to go. I don't recall that there were any actual interruptions during the presentation by people that were shouting pro-Palestinian type comments, but I was ready for those. I was expecting we might hear those.
Well, we had the silent protest from a couple of the squad members who had little paddles.
Right, the paddles.
Yeah.
Yes.
Said, free. Was it Free Palestine or was it ceasefire now? Ceasefire now. That's what it was. It was ceasefire now.
Yeah. I think that's a ceasefire ping pong game.
The ceasefire ping pong
that you can get at the sporting goods store.
Or pickleball, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And last I heard, I have not been watching it very closely, but last I heard, Hamas has rejected yet another ceasefire proposal that they were trying to work on because it didn't encompass a permanent ceasefire, which was, of course, what was in place on October 6th before they attacked. But we have time to talk about that later too. In any event, I do think that there was some measure of that, and then that may have been some of the reason for the delay. But it is interesting. Like every day now, we've got a story where some Democrat politician is being interrupted or detained or delayed by protesters
from the left.
So you love to see it.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I don't love to see it because what they're protesting kind of turns my stomach. I mean, the basis of the protest.
There's that. But it's kind of a let them fight situation.
Exactly. I mean, you stoked some of these divisions. You kind of created this monster, so you get to live with it. I'm not going to feel too bad for you. And speaking of stoking divisions and that sort of thing, main ways in which those who oppose Donald Trump and his candidacy and his potential return to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue is lawfare. I mean, they have thrown everything and the kitchen sink and the kitchen cabinets and everything at him. And he's like the boss in the video game.
Yeah, exactly.
He absorbs the blows and gets bigger and worse. Which, I mean, anybody who's
his health bar's not going down.
Exactly.
Oh my God!
I knew you would appreciate that analogy.
Thank you.
Anybody who's been a careful observer of Donald Trump has to recognize that, but they don't seem to, and so here we go again. So there's been some more developments on the lawfare front. Now, obviously, Monday was a huge day for him because the Supreme Court ruled 9-0 that he could not be removed from the ballot in Colorado based on the insurrection clause of the 14th Amendment.
Yep.
And that was a big win.
Yeah, he won bigly, they said.
He won bigly. And I thought his speech afterwards that morning was actually very good.
Yeah.
And I was like, bring this guy all the time, please.
It was a very presidential version of a spiked football, wasn't it?
It was. And I'm going to go off on a little tangent here. I was reminded last night with Joe Biden's rant. I can't remember. I think it was. I think it was the first speech that Donald Trump gave. It was in 2017. It wasn't technically the State of the Union because they don't call it that in their first year because they've just been inaugurated.
Right.
But he addressed Congress, a joint session, and I remember even the critics going, "This was the day when Donald Trump became president," because he gave a very presidential speech. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't completely polished, but it was a very presidential speech.
Right.
And he has the ability to do that.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
I'm hoping now that he's pretty much all but sewn up the nomination, he will just pivot to that.
Yep.
And do more and more of that because that's what's going to make the difference.
I mean, a lot of people like Rally Trump, right?
Yeah.
Rally Trump is entertaining.
Yeah.
But we don't want necessarily entertaining in the Oval Office. You know what I mean?
And those people are already going to vote for him.
Exactly.
He's got their votes.
Yes.
All he needs to do to keep them is not completely like go off the rails and become a raving progressive. So, he's good there. He does need to pivot. But in the meantime, he's got some legal doings to deal with. So one of the lawsuits against him was the E. Jean Carroll defamation case. Of course, there were two of those. We will not get into the weeds about why that is, but there are two separate defamation cases. She won both of them, one for $5 million, one for $83 million. The $83 million one was the more recent one, and yesterday the judge in that case said, no, you do not get to delay paying that while we're waiting through the post-trial motions. So that means that as of this coming Monday, he's got to pay the judgment or offer up collateral, put a bond up for the amount of the $83 million. So that's a lot.
Yeah.
Now, it's Donald Trump, so he has quite a bit of resources, but of course he's got to be using those on other things.
Yeah, it's not just sitting around in cash. Like he doesn't have a Scrooge McDuck style vault where
unlike
he can
Bob
just go.
Menendez, he doesn't have the gold bars just sitting around
with the Egyptian stamps on them. He actually would have to liquidate, I think, some of his assets. So that there's going to be some stock sell-offs. There might be. He's a real estate guy. I think he's going to try to avoid liquidating his real estate as much as possible. But there's going to be a lot of sort of consternation in, I think, the Trump organization because of that judgment, because even the bond is pretty big.
Well, yeah, but that's a little bit compared to the civil fines that he's been ordered to pay by Judge Engoron in the civil fraud trial. And so he's got the same issue, but on a larger scale with that. So between the two, he's got to come up with close to $500 million or something to secure that, which is not an easy thing, particularly since originally Engoron basically tied his hands in terms of operating and taking loans out in New York. Now, the judge above him has said, no, now wait a second.
Wait a minute.
Wait, we're going to split the baby here. And he can still conduct business. He can still take out loans, that sort of thing. So it's a lot to sort through. I am glad. I mean, I don't know that. I think it would be stressful to be an attorney working for Donald Trump anyway, just because there's so much going on.
Yeah.
But I'm glad I'm not the one that has to figure out how he's going to make this all work.
No, it's a nightmare.
Yeah, it is. It is. Now, another ruling on Thursday that was kind of flew under the radar because I don't think people even knew this lawsuit was out there. This was a lawsuit that Donald Trump brought against the company that was founded by Christopher Steele. The name of that company is Orbis, and this was a lawsuit brought in London against Steele's company, basically saying you made up the Steele dossier and you basically trashed me because of that, and you damaged me. Well, that case got thrown out, dismissed like a month or so ago by a London judge. I didn't ever read the ruling, so I'm operating from a little bit of ignorance here, but my understanding is part of it had to do with when it was brought. There may have been a statute of limitations type issue there, but then also the substance of it. But it was thrown out. It was dismissed, so he was not unsuccessful there, kind of like the one that he filed against Steele himself and Hillary Clinton and some FBI officials in Florida.
Right.
That got thrown out in 2022. So his record as a plaintiff in these cases hasn't been great either. The one in London, yesterday the judge said, well, since you lost, you have to pay their legal fees. They've got a loser pays system, which, has some merits to it. That's the bad news.
Right.
The good news is that he only has to pay $382,000. $100,000 in that one,
all
not
right.
$1 million.
Okay. See, he might actually have that in cash.
Might be able
like,
to do that.
Like in his wallet.
Right.
Cash.
Right. And originally the company that he sued and that won were asking for like $800 and some odd $1,000 in legal fees. So the judge more than cut that in half and said, look, there was really only one hearing in this case. $380,000 is a lot for that, but I'm sure there was a lot of preliminary stuff leading up to that one hearing.
Mm-hmm.
So the judge more than cut it in half, and so he does have to pay $380,000 to this Orbis company.
Mm-hmm.
But again, compared to $83 million or $450 million, or it's a drop in the bucket.
Yeah, absolutely, a drop in the bucket. Like I said, that for certain types of people, that's like you're walking around cash just in case you want to buy a car.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like they live in a different world, but. Those really, really big numbers, when we start talking about that's like, if we were to sort of make it an equivalent for us, it's like, okay, well, that's you trying to buy an extra car for somebody else that you'll never see.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, wait a minute, that's a lot of money actually.
It's real.
Yeah.
It's real. I mean,
maybe a Bentley.
Yeah, well, yeah. When you change the scale, it gets really. It's one thing to be a guy who can drop.
Right.
$300K on a car on a whim, and it's another if it's like you or I dropping $300K on a car that we don't do. Like that's what those big number judgments are like
they
for
are
a Trump
prohibitive,
organization.
And that's by design.
Yeah, they're trying to drain him. Yeah, they're trying to drain him.
So, whether they'll be successful remains to be seen, but they are certainly going to try. Meanwhile, there's other stuff going on in the world, and we're going to talk about that when we get back, including like major website outages.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of stuff going on there, folks. You're listening to the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show here on News Talk STL 94.1 1019.
This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, 99.1 HD3 and newstalkstl.com. Get up, St. Louis. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning.
If you leave, don't leave now. Please don't take my heart away. Promise me just one more night. Then we'll go our separate ways. We always had time on our sides. Now it's fading fast.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Umbrellas are a must again today as a cold front creeps across our area and brings on and off rain showers. Very little thunder, but you might hear a rumble or two. Into the low 60s for mild highs. Once that front swings through this afternoon, winds turn cooler and the rain chances start to drop. So we're cloudy and breezy overnight, a few light showers possible, but they're spotty. And then gradual clearing for Saturday, but it's cooler and breezy tomorrow. Low of 41, high tomorrow of 50. Full sunshine for Sunday, a frosty start, but a decent high at 58. That's your first alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
Hey, it's Tony Colombo for the cleaning pros at Zero Res. It's time for spring cleaning, and there's no one that can help you with that more than the team at Zero Res, especially with this great offer. Book a cleaning in March, mention the Colombo special, and you'll get 3 rooms of carpet cleaned starting at just $119. Plus, you can take $50 off your air duct cleaning and 20% off your upholstery, which is a service we've used many times. Just mention the Colombo special when you call 314-474-2020 or book online at ZeroResSTL.com.
Does your life insurance plan include living benefits, hearing, diabetic supplies, teledoc service, discounts on urns, caskets, tombstones? Larry Connors here. I suggest you call Benjamin Schaefer at Senior Memorial. Call 314-866-8886 or visit memorialplans.com. Memorialplans.com. Senior Memorial Heritage Protection.
Hi, this is Chad with Clayman Group, KLAMEN Group.com. We've been buying a lot of houses lately with foundation problems. St. Louis is notorious for having issues with people's basements, whether it's settlement, water coming in, cracks, or mold from previous water being there. We buy houses in all of those types of conditions. So if you have basement problems or you're thinking about getting it fixed, please reach out. We can simplify your real estate situation and make you an as-is cash offer. KLAMEN Group.com.
On the next
Larry Connors, USA.
As expected in the State of the Union address, President Biden takes no blame for what's happening at the border.
Larry Connors USA. Now weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL.
Hey, this is Rob Carter. Join me weeknights at 8 p.m. as I challenge our politicians, expose the political press, and analyze pop culture. It's the Rob Carter Show weeknights from 8 to 10 p.m. here on News Talk STL. Now let's get back to Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Hey, it's Flashback Friday.
Yes, it is.
Aha.
Oh, man. It's an anthem.
Yeah?
It really is.
Did you ever notice how much of the early 80s music was like really lent itself to like the Peanuts their little dance?
Oh, yeah, the little dance?
Oh,
yeah.
little dance.
Yes. Every time in my head,
Yep.
actually, it's a Peanuts dance.
Exactly.
To whatever the song is.
Yep. Those were good days.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about this, I think, the last time I was here, but it's hard to believe that was 40 years ago. I'm going to cry now.
Oh, man.
40 years.
Yeah, it messes you up when you're walking through. Happen to be in the toy aisle or something. You're looking for a toy for your nephew or a friend's kid or something like that, and you see a 30-year anniversary toy of something that you got for Christmas.
Right.
Like,
oh man.
Well, I was gonna say mine are more like 40, 50 year anniversary toys, but yeah.
Well, yeah. Yeah, this was 10 years ago.
Well, see, and I was just talking about this with somebody else too. This is the one thing that really trips me up is the 90s, because I can't get out of my head the idea that the 90s are 20 years ago.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, they're not. They're 30 years ago. There's a decade there. I have a lost decade. I'm like Japan. I mean, I don't. It's like. What happened? I mean, maybe it was because I had a child in 2002, so like that, young childhood, you kind of are focused on that. But there's that weird gap in my like memory and chronology where I know what happened during that time, but I can't conceive of the 90s being 30 years ago.
Yeah, well, whenever I actually hear about the 90s, I think 10 years ago, actually.
Oh.
It's like I'm
You've
stuck.
got two lost decades.
I'm stuck in that 2000 period. And it's always been so. It's like, oh yeah, it's just been 2000.
Right.
Like that was that in my head.
Right.
2000 had just come, and we're now in the 21st century. Like,
yeah.
So now I have to readjust my thinking every time I think of the 90s. Like, no, wait, that's what is it? What is it now? Is like do the math. Oh my gosh,
We're
that's usually
a
how it
quarter
goes.
of the way into the 21st century.
Yeah. The kids born in 2000 have been drinking for 4 years.
Exactly. Well, probably longer than that.
Probably longer than that. This is
Legally.
college. Yeah.
Legally.
Yes.
But yeah, it is kind of mind-boggling. But, you think about, what's different now even than then, and that includes the technology and our use of it and the way that everything is so like dialed in through social media, which definitely has its negatives, maybe more they may more than outweigh the positives.
Time will tell.
But one of the things is that is one of the fallouts of that is that whenever one of them goes down, it's a big news story.
It's a huge deal.
So a couple weeks ago, it was when I was at CPAC, there was a bunch of AT&T outages on a Thursday, and it didn't directly affect me. I mean, it was, we were aware of it, but I was able to do the things that I needed to do. But it was a little concerning because it was like, that's a major network. That's a major communication method for a lot of Americans, and it's not working right.
Yeah, we talked about it. It was kind of regional too, but it was still such a big effect, even for regional outages.
Yeah, and it was kind of, I'm not going to say it was random, but it seemed like there were some things affected and others that weren't. It was very strange, but
weird.
It really brings home, okay, we are so reliant on these methods of communication that when they are not available for whatever reason, it's problematic. And then earlier this week, there was the big Facebook outage.
Yes, Meta went down.
Yeah, I went to go look at something, and it was like, log in. I'm like, I never have to log into Facebook. I'm always just like
what's
that's
happening?
Weird. And then I go ahead and log in, and that's one of the passwords that I just happen to know. Put it in, wrong password. I'm like,
wait a minute.
So then my immediate thought was, oh, have I been hacked and been kicked out?
Right.
But then I saw other people saying, oh, it's not working for me either. So I'm like, okay, it's not just me. I didn't panic. I didn't try to redo my password or anything, but I was just like, okay. So that was weird.
And then
as a news person, was your second thought, hey, this is Super Tuesday. Why is this happening on Super Tuesday? That was my second thought, but I didn't know if other people were thinking that.
It wasn't because here's the thing. Facebook has gotten so stringent on what it allows. We've noticed as a news site, RedState was very affected by Facebook's state books
yes.
policies.
Little Freudian slip there. State book. I see what you did there.
There's not as much news being shared on Facebook regarding the political sphere. So
because everybody's afraid to do it.
Well,
you can't.
You can't. It throttles it. Like it doesn't really do much of anything. So my point is, I don't know how, if someone was intentionally doing this in relation to Super Tuesday, how they thought that would impact it, because everybody already knew it was Super Tuesday, and going to vote doesn't have anything to do with your Facebook.
Right.
So
no.
I know,
except for
I
the
did,
sticker pictures.
I did see some people mentioning that. I'm like, it is a weird coincidental timing, but I don't know what would that have accomplished?
Right.
Who did that keep from voting, or who did that confuse about voting?
Maybe had it gone on all day, I would have been more suspicious because, half hour later it was over and I thought, okay, we can move on.
Yeah, I mean, they may have been futzing with something in relation to what they're planning to do. You never know. But, I don't know if I make that connection. But speaking of coincidental timing, last night during the State of the Union address, Truth Social and a bunch of other websites experienced unexplained outages.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Now, of course, no one really knew it because they were focused on, people that were online were focused on the speech, and I don't think Twitter went down. I'm sure it didn't.
No, actually, Meta made an announcement on Twitter that they were down and they were making changes.
Yeah. So once again, you've got
this
strange outage, and it does make you wonder. Now, the Truth Social thing, I think, there's two possibilities. There's three possibilities, probably. Random fluky event, targeted trying to keep Donald from live chatting about the State of the Union, or just so much volume on the site because they knew he'd be reacting to it that it kind of knocked it down. But since there were other sites that were out too, it does make you wonder. And all of it has to kind of emphasize over and over again how vulnerable we are to these sorts of attacks.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's the thing that we kind of got into this really big conversation just from the AT&T outage. It's like makes you want to get a generator and some extra food and stuff like that.
Yes, and think about, okay, how do I communicate with my people in the event of something drastic where because we're so reliant on the technology that we've forgotten. I was having this conversation not too long ago too, like maps.
Yep. Yeah. How do you get from point A to point B over long distances?
I am reasonably sure that if I were to hand my 21-year-old a not like a big folding map, but like a generalized map of an area, she could probably figure it out because she has traveled a lot. She has driven around a lot. So she's got a decent concept of it, but she's very reliant on GPS. As am I, as are we all.
Yeah, pretty much all of us.
But the vast majority of people in her age group,
oh gosh,
probably haven't ever touched an actual map.
Oh, a paper map?
Like
that would feel like handling a museum thing.
Oh,
MapQuest, yes. Funny you mentioned that. I saw a post a couple weeks ago. Somebody put a regular map and MapQuest and just commented that, we used to use these all the time, but
man,
we never use them at all.
Yeah.
It is pretty. So I drove to Washington, D.C. and back for CPAC. And, I used GPS the entire way. Now, if something had looked really strange to me, I would have questioned it and stopped and made a point to double check, some way. But
like Miami Beach, 30 miles.
Yeah, right. But yeah, I mean, you kind of just trust that that the GPS is taking you where you need to go, and if all of a sudden that is gone.
Yeah, that's huge. Yeah, because I was thinking about the whole map thing at some point. As we went from if you start going backwards, we have the GPS now, so it's kind of a live version of the MapQuest mask,
mm-hmm.
right? Which you would print out and have the turn by turn.
I know.
And a little
and you're
overview.
like driving and trying to read.
Exactly.
Like,
exactly.
Sorry.
Well,
Here,
or you got the navigator.
Yes.
Hopefully you got somebody there reading. It's like, oh, you missed the turn on 55. Oh no.
Oh, that was on page 6.
It was on page. All right. And then prior to that was the big foldy maps.
Yes.
And I gotta say, I loved the big foldy maps because I got to be Dad's navigator on our big long trip. So I'm sitting back there, with the thing that I'm like 8, so the thing is like this big,
10 times as big as you.
Exactly, my
Right.
arms are stretched completely just to get the portion of the map that we need.
Yep.
And and that was fun. It's like, oh, Dad, there's an intersection here. It's we can do. Yeah. And Dad would always get lost, not because of me, but just because. Just like, okay, we got to avoid this toll road because we didn't. But it was fun back in the day. But I couldn't imagine handing that, folding it up first of all, because refolding it was a skill.
always a trick, yeah.
Yeah, but folding up that map and handing it to somebody in my daughter's generation and say, okay, I need you to get from here to there.
Yeah.
And,
It'd be
and just let
interesting
it,
to watch. Now, the one thing I will say and it would be from my daughter. So she's 21, almost 22. So from her age up a little bit, those kids did grow up with Dora the Explorer.
Oh, yeah,
and
that's
they
true.
had find the map. Right. So they at least understand the concept.
Yes.
But who comes after Generation Z? Is it Generation Alpha?
Alpha, yes.
So the alphas are the ones that really are going to have no concept
They're
whatsoever.
screwed.
Yeah.
Right. Sadly. Sorry, kids.
Sorry, guys. You're lost.
Yeah, we improve society.
There's the North Star. Figure it out.
We improve society, but that doesn't help your
But you
skills.
can't find your way out of a paper bag.
Exactly.
But you know what? The good thing is they've got TikTok, at least for now. We'll talk about that a little bit more when we come back here on the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show on News Talk STL 1019 94.1.
Like and subscribe to us on Rumble. News Talk STL. Get up, St. Louis. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning.
The tides are changing.
St. Louis's new choice for conservative talk.
The Democratic Party doesn't stand with what I stand for.
News Talk STL.
When it comes to your family's financial future, when it comes to your quality of life, do not take chances. That's why you should call my friends Rodney and Jen. Mike Ferguson here for the Wallner Home Selling Team with Berkshire Hathaway. When you're looking at buying or selling a home, what you're really talking about is where are your kids going to go to school? Do you like your neighbors? Do you enjoy going out on your porch and your patio? If you're about to retire, where are you going to retire? All of these things matter. So give Rodney and Jen a call today, 314-810-SOLD, even if you're just thinking about it. They're not going to make you sign a contract to give you some initial advice and give you initial reaction. But what you're going to find out is not only do they really know what they're talking about, but they really care about people. That's one of the reasons they are so successful is they genuinely care about the people they serve, and they are some of the top real estate professionals in the region, licensed in both Missouri and in Illinois. Yes, those business people still exist, and their names are Rodney and Jen Wallner. Put them to the test. That's my challenge. Find out why I like them so much. Give them a call today, 314-810-SOLD. Once again, don't leave your family's financial future when it comes to real estate at any risk. Do it right. Give Rodney and Jen a call today, and you're going to find out why I'm so impressed with them. You will be too.
My name is Todd Showalter, and I'm announcing the Right Mind Show is officially running Saturday nights at 5. I'll now open the floor for questions.
Is the Right Mind Show funny at all?
No comment. Next question. Yeah, you, different reporter with the same voice.
Your co-host is very cute.
Not a question. I've got time for one more.
Do you do any impressions on the Right Mind Show?
Yeah, absolutely. Here's Joe Biden getting out of bed.
The Right Mind Show with Todd Showalter. Saturday afternoons at 5 on News Talk STL. This hour of Mike Ferguson in the Morning is brought to you by Stifel. Request a portfolio review from your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. Love the music you hear on the morning show? Check out Mike's morning music playlist at newstalkstl.com.
Growing up
St.
Elmo's Fire.
Yes.
Exactly. Okay, was it just me, or were those that era of the Brat Pack? They were so cool. They were so cool. I mean, they were just. So I'm just a little bit younger than the Brat Pack, not like maybe like 4 or 5 years, not much, but just watching them, because then they did all the high school films, and then they did the St. Elmo's Fire, which was like getting out of college films, and I mean that was. I don't know. They just all seemed like they were so cool.
They were representative of the generation, or at least
were.
sort of an aspirational generation. Yeah.
That's the other fun thing now is to see the now and then pictures of them all, like in a group, and realize how much, the only person who hasn't aged is Rob Lowe, but the rest of them,
yeah, pretty much.
He still looks like he's the same age.
Yeah, seriously.
I don't know.
And John, what's his name? John Stamos?
John Stamos looks
Does
pretty
he come
good.
from that?
He's from that era, but he wasn't part of the Brat Pack. He was like on General Hospital playing Blackie Parrish and stuff like that.
That's true.
So, but he is of that era, and he
hasn't
another
aged
one.
a whole lot.
He does still look very good for his age, for sure. But I don't know who the big stars are today. They're all influencers. They're all social media influencers. They're not or reality stars. They're not the big actors and stuff like that. So the kids these days, obviously TikTok is big with them. I have not succumbed to TikTok. I've seen TikTok videos because they come up in other contexts.
Yeah, they show up in the Facebook Reels, I think is what they call. No,
Yeah.
well,
That's right.
Or in the shorts and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Instagram
you
has.
see it,
Yeah.
and you see their ads all over TV.
Oh gosh.
On the stations that are talking about how they should be banned. But anyway,
oddly enough.
So here's the thing. I've resisted the temptation. I do not have it on my phone. I'm sure that my phone's completely secure because of that. But, there's a big push. There's a bipartisan push in Congress to ban TikTok if they will not agree to divest themselves of their ByteDance company. So
Right.
if the Chinese government will not agree to, because the connection is too close. And this is Congress critters doing something, right?
Right. Yeah.
But there is this big, and it's looking more and more likely like they may actually come up with some legislation that basically bans TikTok.
Okay.
Which has the youths in a complete panic.
Oh gosh, yes.
So TikTok is fighting back. Yesterday, they were encouraging their users to call their Congress people.
Oh wow.
And they were getting calls of kids saying they were going to commit suicide.
Oh my gosh.
They were like, there were threats. There were
go-to.
There were bad. I mean, this was a big bad thing.
Hey
terms
kids.
of that.
When we say call your congressman, we don't mean that.
Well, you never know. I mean,
like threatening to commit suicide is not the way you influence your Congress critter.
It definitely had an impact, and here's how I know.
Mm-hmm.
I actually watched, there was a Judiciary Committee hearing yesterday morning about the weaponization of the government, and it was supposedly about banking and debanking and that sort of thing. It ended up being a J6 revisit because the Democrats got involved with that. But in any event, one of them, I think it was Kat Kamek from the Republicans, was talking about, because they were talking about the use of AI and filters and all these sorts of things, and she was like, my office phone is blowing up right now from people panicking about TikTok being banned. And it's an interesting quandary, because on the one hand, the libertarian me is like, I don't know that this is what government really should be doing. On the other hand, there are legit national security threats and implications with this. It's a tough one.
Yeah, I always whenever the government wants to get involved in any of these things, my gut response is kind of like, I'm doing me a concern. Okay, it's like furrowed brow and all. I don't like when the government wants to tell companies what they can and cannot do or say. I don't want to open that door. It feels like a Pandora's box, and it feels like, given the weaponization of our government currently against people who think like us, it feels like that's easily turned against people like us. That's like the death of Rumble. That's the death of Twitter under Elon Musk. Because somebody's going to declare, well, it's a pathway for hate speech, and therefore a clear and present danger. And now under this authorization, we're going to shut it. That's the stuff where my mind always goes. But I do think there is a means by which the government can do something about TikTok without opening that door. The problem is I don't think our Congress critters are smart enough to do that, to
Right.
thread that needle.
Yeah, and I think that may be the issue. And there's also a problem with the mixed messaging because
Mhm.
you've got the Biden administration, on the government level, you've got most government officials saying TikTok bad,
Right.
TikTok bad,
Right.
but they use it to get their message out.
Yeah. Well, and you kind of have to on some level. I think a lot of people feel as though you have to. I've got a couple of various ventures where I have to deal with, online marketing people and things like that. And everybody says, oh, you need a TikTok presence.
Right.
It's actually one of the cheapest and easiest ways to get exposure. It's like I make however much money on TikTok with almost zero investment just
Right.
because of the way the algorithm works.
Right.
So it's like, man,
So it's social media crack is what it is.
It is. It's built that way.
Right. And then, so it's ingenious, it's insidious.
Mhm.
No, we fight the same battle. I mean, obviously, RedState, we're trying to get the message out and across platforms. And, if you want to get the eyeballs, TikTok is where to go, but I don't want it on my phone. So,
gosh.
yeah, I mean, it's a quandary, but I did think it was interesting that TikTok kind of went on the offensive yesterday and was basically letting all of its users know, hey, those big bad Congress people are going to try and take your TikTok away. Now, I will tell you this. If they do pass legislation that in some way limits or bans TikTok, I guarantee the narrative is going to be those big, mean Republicans are behind it.
Yes, even if it's bipartisan. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we can look for that in the coming days, but apparently it set off a panic amongst the youth yesterday. And just in case you see them looking down, it's because they're worried about their TikTok, just so you know.
Yeah, well, you can't take the internet crack away without the the abuser of it railing against you.
It's serious stuff. Well, there's much more to talk about here on the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show, so we're going to be back right after the break at the top of the hour to give you some news. You're listening to the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show here on News Talk STL 1019 94.1.
Agree
I think conservatives have it wrong.
or disagree.
I couldn't agree with you more.
The conversation happens here.
I agree with you on Trump. I'm shaking my head. I'm one of your liberal Democratic listeners, and I don't get why any of this even matters.
Because your voice matters.
Everybody told him he couldn't do it, and then he did do it. That's what you got to do. You got to play hardball.
I want to hear what people are thinking and be able to talk about it.
1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Hey, everybody, it's Rob Carter. Did you know that every day 10,000 baby boomers turn 65 and need help deciphering their Medicare options? I want to tell you about my lifelong friend, Pamela Berry, Pilgrim Pammy. She has over 2 decades of experience dealing with Medicare insurance. She's an expert specializing in business owners, but she can assist you too. She'll help you navigate and uncomplicate Medicare. With nearly 70 plan options, special enrollments may be available. Call Pilgrim Pammy at 314-659-9841.
Sundays at 5 on News Talk STL.
All your hard-earned tax dollars and mine are going to fund illegal aliens who come across the border penniless, jobless, skillless, and they're given a cell phone, an identity, and a cash stipend every month.
Mark McCloskey on fire.
That beats your Social Security income if you should have the good nature to work your ass off your whole life and retire.
Mark McCloskey on fire. Sundays at 5 on News Talk STL.
Brought to you in part by Modern Weapon Systems in Fenton.
Classic Kicks Country is streaming now. Hear all your new country favorites from the 90s.
I should have been a cowboy.
Streaming as it happened in the 90s. Classic Kicks.
Let's go, girls.
Download the Classic Kicks app from the App Store. Online at ClassicKicks.com. Or enable the Classic Kicks skill on Alexa.
I love this station.
90s New Country streaming now. KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason. President Biden faced some outspoken detractors, might call them hecklers, during last night's State of the Union speech. One of them, a Gold Star dad who lost his Marine son, one of 13 Americans killed by a suicide bomber during the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan.
The biggest increase in history.
Stephen Nakui shouting Abbey Gate and 2nd Battalion 1st Marines. He was placed under arrest and taken away by U.S. Capitol Police. Well, now that the speech is over, Mr. Biden is taking his State of the Union message on the road.
The president will hold campaign events in Pennsylvania this afternoon and Georgia tomorrow. Donald Trump also will be campaigning in Georgia this weekend. With Super Tuesday and the State of the Union behind us, the general election is in full gear, heading toward party conventions this summer and Election Day in November.
White House correspondent Greg Clugston. President Biden ordering the U.S. military to build a temporary pier off the coast of Gaza to get more aid to Palestinian civilians caught up in the Israel-Hamas war. The government's February jobs report due out this morning.
Employers added 3.1 million jobs in 2023, which was down from 4.5 million in 2022 and 7 million jobs in 2021. That deceleration in hiring is being welcomed by the Federal Reserve, which otherwise might worry that a job market that's too hot would force companies to sharply raise wages and prices and reignite inflation.
Correspondent Donna Warder says economists predict the February report will show the addition of some 200,000 jobs last month. On Wall Street, ahead of this morning's opening bell, Dow futures down 137 points, while the NASDAQ futures are off 52 points. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Relief factor, pain relief that's natural, pain relief that works, and pain relief that attacks the source of the pain. That's the experience of tens of thousands of Americans who are taking Relief Factor right now. See their incredible video endorsements at relieffactor.com and then order your 3-week quick starter pack for just $19.95. That's less than $1 a day. Find out if it can work for you like it works for me by ordering your 3-week quick starter pack today. Relieffactor.com, relieffactor.com. Be the next success story.
Seth Holhouse brings hope and insight as he fights against socialism and communism on the Man in America podcast, now available on the Salem Podcast Network.
The role of the digital world in shaping our perception of the real world cannot be overlooked. It seems like all of these mechanisms are dividing us in endless ways.
Subscribe to Man in America today on Apple, Spotify, Google, YouTube, Rumble, or at Salem Podcast Network.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Umbrellas are a must again today as a cold front creeps across our area and brings on and off rain showers. Very little thunder, but you might hear a rumble or two. Into the low 60s for mild highs. Once that front swings through this afternoon, winds turn cooler and the rain chances start to drop. So we're cloudy and breezy overnight, a few light showers possible, but they're spotty. And then gradual clearing for Saturday, but it's cooler and breezy tomorrow. Low of 41, high tomorrow of 50. Full sunshine for Sunday, a frosty start, but a decent high at 58. That's your First Alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness 101. Wellness 101 is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense, science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on News Talk STL. For more information, visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
I got an email which brought a smile. A woman named Mary wrote me, "We are purchasing a new roof from John Beal based on your recommendation." I thanked her then. I do it again now. Mary, I only endorse clients I believe in, and I've been a spokesman for John Beal for 10 years. It's all about trust. So if, like Mary, you need John Beal, trust me. Call 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF.
This hour of Mike Ferguson in the Morning brought to you by Window World. Simply the best for less. 314-993-1800 or visit windowworld.com. Mike Ferguson.
You play ball like a girl!
Gabe Pfeiffer.
I triple dog dare ya!
Get up! Can't you hear the alarm?
Get up, St. Louis.
So it's time to get out of bed. Pour yourself the greatest cup of Kofifi the world has ever seen. rise up with one voice, drain the swamp, and take back our country. Today's the day we're going to do it, and it's time to do it right now, believe me.
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
It's Friday!
And it's Failure Friday for Susie because I forgot to have a drink in my hand for the Kofifi dance.
Oh, no.
My bad. I just finished my soda. Sorry about that, guys. Oh, well. I pantomimed it. I'm sure it was, wonderful to watch.
It works.
You're listening to the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show on News Talk STL. Susie Moore filling in for Mike today while he's off doing old man baseball stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
I got Gabe here with me. I've got Stell here with me. And, oh, my gosh, we're already an hour into the show. And I thought, I'm not going to have enough to talk about. Yeah, we've got enough to talk about.
We got way more to talk about than we
get
room.
we get more things to talk about as we go along, including this. I think we mentioned this. I don't know if we talked about it on the air.
Yeah, I think we briefly mentioned it.
Of course, last night was the State of the Union address for anyone who wasn't under a rock. And there were blessedly few interruptions of it.
Yes.
Speaker Johnson had made clear to his caucus, "Hey guys, let's behave ourselves. Let's use some decorum." And for the most part, they did. There was a little exchange, which we'll talk about maybe later on, between Marjorie Taylor Greene and Joe Biden, but that was 40 plus minutes into the speech, and it was kind of contained.
Yeah.
And the Democrats didn't do any loud protests. They had their silent paddles that like you mentioned. There was a gentleman up in the gallery who started shouting, and it was hard to understand what he was saying. To me, it sounded like he was saying free something, but it wasn't free Palestine, and I wasn't sure what was going on. It turns out he's a Gold Star dad, and he's one of the dads of one of the 13 service members who were killed at the Abbey Gate in Afghanistan. And so he was shouting about that.
Yeah.
I don't blame him. I don't blame any of those families for being just still livid with Joe Biden and his administration over how that was handled. So I can't really fault the guy, although I agree standing up in the middle of the State of the Union address probably isn't the most effective way to get your message across. He was arrested after that. He was taken out of the chamber and he was put in handcuffs and he was arrested and he was charged with a misdemeanor crime. So here's the interesting part. And I started to say funny part. It's not funny because it's certainly not funny what happened to his child, and it's not even funny that he was arrested.
Yeah.
The charge, which I didn't know existed.
As a lawyer.
As a lawyer,
yeah.
Which I didn't practice criminal law, but I have more than a passing familiarity with most of the
law terms. Yeah.
Yeah. Crowding, obstructing, or incommoding.
Incommoding.
I have never heard that word before today. Ever.
Sounds like it's something in a bathroom.
That's exactly what I mean. You can't hear that and not think commode.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I don't think he did anything like that.
Right. I mean, in my head, I'm like, okay, guys, you get up in the middle of the night and you're going to the bathroom. You want to go in the incommoding and not out commoding,
right?
Because that makes a mess and your wife gets mad at you.
I was going to say, the ladies in the house are not going to be pleased with you if you do that. So I looked it up. It is a word. It is a genuine word, and it means to inconvenience or give inconvenience or distress to.
And that's a misdemeanor.
It's a misdemeanor.
See, that's the problem because there are so many things that are illegal that you don't know that are illegal, and then of course there's the fact that somebody incommodes me every day. It's like, wait, can I have these people arrested? Is that what you're saying?
Well, apparently so. And it's interesting too. That's crowding. That's an interesting thing. And it basically is like you're blocking someone's use of the sidewalk or the road or the entrance.
Getting in somebody's personal space.
So, it is a misdemeanor.
Right.
I'm sure he's not going to spend any time in jail.
No.
Thank God. But it's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, especially considering, the various confrontations we've seen on film, for any protest, any time somebody's trying to go to a conservative event and some lefty wants to get in their face with a bullhorn, something like that. Wouldn't that be incommoding?
Yes. Wouldn't they always be guilty of this? Wouldn't this charge always be an option there?
Absolutely.
Blocking a highway?
Blocking a highway. It's like, you guys are committing a misdemeanor.
Just interesting. When I ran across that, I was like, incommoding? What
okay.
the heck is that?
Okay,
don't know.
I'm going to use that word from now on.
Well, we all learned a new word today.
I felt incommoded on my way into work today.
Compliments of the State of the Union address.
All right, thanks. Thanks, Joe.
State of the race is what I wanted to talk about, actually, because, with Super Tuesday in the rearview mirror now and Donald Trump picking up, I think, was 14 of the 15 contests, Nikki Haley did have her Vermont win. And she is the first female candidate to win a state in the primary. So
that's something that's historic.
It is historic.
Absolutely.
And she, did wisely, I think, agree to suspend her campaign the following day. Still hasn't endorsed Donald Trump.
I don't think she will.
Well, maybe not. She might not. She kind of left the door open to it. And I can understand, everything's still fresh. And it's been pretty contentious and rancorous between the two of them. So I can understand her not wanting to immediately turn and kiss the ring. I get that.
Yeah.
I get that. I mean, that's very normal, very human.
Sure.
She did sign the pledge saying that she would support the eventual nominee, even though, in fairness, Donald Trump did not. But since he's going to be the eventual nominee, I think we can assume that he's going to support himself.
Yeah, I think so.
So, interestingly enough, former candidate, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis threw a little shade at Nikki Haley yesterday. Yeah.
Okay.
Because he bowed out after, I guess, it was after Iowa, before New Hampshire. He bowed out and immediately endorsed Donald Trump. And
yes.
God knows things were contentious between the two of them. I mean, between their supporters, it was nasty.
Yeah, especially online.
Nasty. And I have my thoughts about that, but we won't get into that.
Yeah.
But to his credit, Ron DeSantis said, look, I'm suspending my campaign. I don't have a path to victory here. And I agreed to support the nominee, so I am endorsing Donald Trump. And I think that was a smart political move because that took him out of the fray almost immediately.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
So all of the grievances between the Trump camp and the DeSantis camp, while they're still kind of relatively new and fresh, by 2028, those are so far in the rearview mirror.
Oh, my gosh, yes.
That will all be forgiven.
Absolutely.
And it also opens the door to there being a working relationship between the two of them should Donald Trump return to the White House.
Right.
This is a good move.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he just went back to being the best governor in the country.
Right. Absolutely. It's like, okay, now, it's a toss-up between him and Greg Abbott. Because Greg Abbott is racking up some points.
That's true. That's true.
But, yeah. But no, I think that was the smart political thing to do. He's a politician. He knows. And I think I will say this as far as Nikki Haley goes. I mean, I've seen people basically writing her, epitaph like she's done in politics.
Yeah,
she ain't done in politics. She's 52 years old. She is, kind of a formidable figure. She's held some very high profile positions. She ran for office. She did win a state. She's got a lot on her resume. She made a lot of missteps in this campaign, I think. And I'm disappointed in that. I'm somebody who wasn't instantly anti-Nikki Haley like some people were. I agree that she's kind of more of the old school neocon version of the Republicans. And so she was not going to be my first choice. I'd still take her every day of the week and twice on Sunday over Joe Biden.
Sure, yeah.
Or Gavin Newsom or J.B. Pritzker or Kamala Harris or any of the people that the Dems are going to put up. So let's be clear about that. But I think she made some missteps. I don't know if it was listening to bad advice or just failing to kind of read the room, but I think she genuinely misread the room.
The party.
The party, yeah. It's like she pivoted to the middle too fast and forgot she left the base behind.
Right. It's like, hey, we're all right here.
Right. And then in the process, she turned them all against her. And then also she took some stances that I like, the whole, like, you have to use your full name on social media.
Yeah.
She made some really weird choices.
Yes.
So I think it would benefit her to maybe take some time to kind of evaluate and assess.
Take a break.
Take a deep breath. Come back, support Donald Trump as the nominee, campaign for him. She's going to go to Mar-a-Lago. I think she was maybe scheduled to go to Mar-a-Lago this week.
Oh, really?
That could have just been a rumor.
Oh, okay.
So I don't want to be putting out fake news. But I thought I saw somewhere that she was maybe going to visit with the former president.
That's interesting.
And, okay, nobody could be more cringe in meeting with Donald Trump than Mitt Romney.
That's true.
That's for sure.
That's true.
That meeting between the two of them
was a cringe fest.
was really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like, oh,
yeah.
God. So,
Secondhand embarrassment.
She doesn't, I wouldn't advise her to go crawling. She needs to. They need to mend fences, and they will. I think they will, and I think she will endorse him and support him in the general.
That's interesting. Okay.
That's my take.
Yeah, I think part of the problem is because we're in the political realm in more of a sort of reality show way these days than we have been in the past. We forget that the sort of the I'll say pseudo animosity that we sometimes see between politicians, especially on the same side, is more for show than real. Or at the very least, it can be put aside.
It's temporal.
A lot. It's temporal. That's probably the best way to describe it. It's a temporal thing, and they are more than willing to put those things aside in order to make political gains sometimes.
If you're now, I'm realizing I'm just going to undercut my argument here in just a second. But if you're somebody who's going to be a politician on the big national stage, and you haven't developed a thick skin,
oh gosh.
You're in the wrong business.
Right.
You could not be a sensitive person and weather this. You could not. I mean,
and hold grudges and all that.
I get my feelings hurt very easily. Now I say that, and then I think about Donald Trump, and he's one of the prime examples of having kind of like he gets his nose out of joint. He gets mad at people, and he kind of holds grudges, but he also gets rid of them. It's weird. He's like both extremes.
Yes, he is.
Like he goes to the mat against people, and it's ugly and dirty and gross and and then he's like, "Oh, come on, we're gonna go have a drink." And then he doesn't drink, but I mean, look, we're gonna have dinner together.
Yeah,
he does,
here, have a Big Mac on me.
As long as his ego is basically assuaged, then he's like, "Okay, we're good."
Yeah, it is very weird. It's like you don't touch the third rail of his personality essentially, but at some point he just turns the voltage off. It's like, no, it's fine.
When it no longer behooves him to have that person as his enemy, he lets it go. So it's kind of an interesting skill, and I think it probably served him well in his business life.
Oh, yeah.
It's a weird skill in a politician, but he is able to do it.
Yeah, he's almost like a standard New Yorker times 150.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
That's a good description.
Because I mean, us New Yorkers, we have a weird thing about us where we can be kind of really just harsh in general. We're a little prickly sometimes, but part of it is just because we're prickly with our friends,
right?
Too. So it's just it's almost a universal edge that New Yorkers have, and
it's amplified in him.
Amplified in him on so many levels. It's kind of weird.
It is interesting to watch. We've got more to talk about, folks, when we come back, including an interesting development in the UK about whether or not somebody should be charged with or go to jail for misgendering somebody.
Oh, boy, here we go.
Talking about that when we come back here on the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show on News Talk STL 1019 94.1.
Don't try to make me stop, no inspiration. You have a soul so dark, it is no more.
For podcast articles and more, find us on newstalkstl.com. Get up, St. Louis. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Stop right now before you blow us all away. You wanna do that now? Get up, can't you hear the alarm? Get up, this is your cousin.
The Vic Porcelli Show.
The keynote speaker of the Franklin County Lincoln Reagan Banquet, our very own Susie Moore, joins us Friday at 10:05.
Weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL.
Katie here, and I'd like to talk to you guys about Michael's Flooring Outlet. You could gain peace of mind with Michael's Flooring Outlet for your flooring and carpet installation needs. Their team of experts ensures that the job is done right the first time, providing you with attentive and personalized service. Just like my parents, you can trust them to replace your old carpet with beautiful hardwood flooring. Visit one of their 3 locations in Dardenne Prairie, St. Peters, or Creve Coeur, or check them out at igotfloored.com. That's igotfloored.com.
Hello, Tim Jones here with Eric from Newsteaders Fine Jewelers. Eric, your diamonds are so fantastic at Newsteaders. You named the website after them, wowdiamonds.com. WowDiamonds.com. Tell us about Wow Diamonds.
Well, we picked that name because when people look at the diamonds, they all exclaim the same thing. Everybody says, wow. And nobody can spell Newsteaders, so we figured Wow Diamonds would definitely be good tagline, and it's very accurate. We actually introduced the lab-grown diamond to our St. Louis family, and we're the exclusive home of the trademarked Wow Diamond. It's the most perfectly cut and polished diamond you'll ever experience, and we can fit one into anyone's budget. The thing that's nice about them is they're significantly less expensive than a mined diamond, and of course the artwork is in the cutting and polishing. That's where you get the beauty in the diamond, and that's what we excel at.
Newsteaders, a St. Louis jewelry tradition since 1961. Stop by and find out why. 2961 Daughtery Ferry Road, or on the internet, wowdiamonds.com for Newsteaders. Fine jewelers.
News Talk STL is proud to have Doug Voss as part of our lineup every week. Doug has been a staple on St. Louis radio for many years as one of the leading financial experts in the area. You can hear Doug and Safe Money Radio 3 times every weekend on News Talk STL. And in case you miss anything, you can check it all out at DougVossSafeMoneyRadio.com. What else do our listeners need to know, Doug?
Simply put, I focus on helping pre-retirees and retirees build, preserve, and protect retirement assets, and I've been helping my clients solve their insurance and financial needs for the past 33 years. I also strive to educate my clients on how to prepare for retirement, minimize the impact of market volatility on their assets, and deal with the challenges of increased longevity. Call me today at 844-676-SAFE. That's 844-676-7233.
Doug Voss is a registered representative. Securities offered through DHL Securities, LLLP, member FINRA and SIPC.
Hey, thank you very much for taking my call.
News, analysis, opinion.
Yes, I just want you to know what a breath of fresh air you people are.
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Bill O'Reilly here. Check out the O'Reilly Update this afternoon at 3:45. Right now, it's back to Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
I can see the path you're cutting. Cost me a little piece of my heart.
An artist we forget about.
Is it Rick Springfield?
It is.
Oh,
Nicely done.
Thank you. Is this hard to hold, or is it? No, it's not hard to hold.
Love Somebody.
Love Somebody. Okay.
He kind of gets lost in the clouds when people talk about the 80s, but he had some great tunes.
He did. He had a movie. He had a movie that was, I think Hard to Hold was the movie, and that was like his hit from that. And then, of course, he had Jesse's Girl.
Yeah.
So here's another little trivia bit for you. Rick Springfield was Noah Drake on General Hospital.
Yes.
Which is where John Stamos then became Blackie Parrish. So.
Yeah, my wife was a
Connection
GH gal.
there. Yeah. Hey, you are not listening to Soap Stars. You are actually listening to the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show on News Talk STL. I'm Susie Moore filling in for him, just having a little fun because it's Friday and we're having Flashback Friday and I'm reliving my youth. One of the things that was like, I guess I'm nostalgic for is the fact that there wasn't a thing of, there wasn't such a thing as misgendering when we were youth.
Yeah, not in real life. I mean, there's that tomboy who
I totally was.
who had short hair, and if you squinted, if you saw her from a distance, you might say, "Oh, the here come the boys." Technically a misgender.
I was using that term. Yeah. I was misgendered as a 7-ish-year-old. We were in
because they all
Florida,
look the same at 7. Kids all look the same at 7.
And I had the Dorothy Hamill haircut,
Oh yeah,
so, and my hair was so fine that it just laid flat. It didn't have the volume that hers did. Mm-hmm. So and we're on the beach, and my sisters are there with me, and there's a surfer dude guy trying to pick up on my one sister, and he's like, "Is that your little brother?" Now, keep in mind, I was in a one-piece swimsuit, so that should have been the tell.
That's usually the tell.
That should have been the tell, but I was like,
nobody was misgendered at the pool back in the 80s.
Don't go with him. He's dumb. He's totally dumb.
He's a dummy.
But no, you didn't take major offense to that other than just finding it silly and stupid.
And you do the, I'm a girl.
Right.
You do the little thing. It's like,
exactly.
Oh, clearly, yes.
And to your point, I very much was a tomboy. I wanted to be the first woman pro football player. I was like playing football I was that girl.
There you go.
And then, but be that as it may, the misgendering as a grand offense.
Oh gosh,
was not a thing.
No.
And I don't want to be insensitive to somebody who would necessarily feel that they are the other gender or whatever. That's on them as an adult. That's their thing. I'm not going to go into that.
Sure.
Point being, it wasn't a grand offense, and it wasn't a crime.
Certainly not a legal offense.
It is a legal offense now in Great Britain.
Of course.
So J.K. Rowling, who of course is the author of the Harry Potter series, and so therefore has much wealth and independence, which gives her a little bit of room to work.
And a staunch feminist.
She's a staunch feminist in the sense of supporting
women.
And she is not about to cave.
No.
And so there's a figure in England or in the UK, India Willoughby is this person's name, who is a trans woman.
Which means a man
originally
who,
biological male who
Okay.
has transitioned and lives life as a woman. And they've had some set twos. The two of them have, they've got a history.
Sure.
So she referred to Willoughby as, he was born Jonathan Willoughby, a man on
Right.
Twitter.
Sure.
So Willoughby turned her into the police.
Oh gosh.
He's reported her to this is what Willoughby said.
Okay.
I'm legally a woman. She knows I'm a woman, and she calls me a man. It's a protected characteristic, and that is a breach of both the Equalities Act and the Gender Recognition Act.
Oh boy.
She's tweeted that out to 14 million followers. I don't know if it's going to be treated as a hate crime, malicious communications, but it's a cut and dry offense as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, if UK law is structured such that someone can credibly make that sort of accusation, then you can definitely say that the sun has gone down on the UK empire.
Yeah, the sun has set for sure.
Yeah.
So Rowling's response to that was not to cower in fear.
Oh gosh.
She says, "Man is not a slur."
Okay.
I know a lot of you think the UN should intervene whenever women bruise your egos, but there's no human right to universal validation. Aware as I am that it's an offense to lie to law enforcement, I'll simply have to explain to the police that, in my view, India is a classic example of the male narcissist who lives in a state of perpetual rage that he can't compel women to take him at his own valuation.
Woo. Don't mess with a writer. They'll cut you with their pen.
Yeah, no.
My
that's
goodness.
a beautiful response. She
Yeah.
is not giving in, and I respect that.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
here's what I guess what I want to say is, let's set aside hurt feelings. Okay.
Yeah.
Think about where we are. Let's say she was wrong.
Okay.
Let's say Willoughby was a biological woman.
Mm-hmm.
And she called her a man.
Right. Okay.
Would that be an offense?
Right. That's a good question.
It might be offensive
Right.
to Willoughby or people that are friends with her.
But does it count as illegal?
Is that a legal offense? Because
Right.
that's misgendering.
Yeah.
If I called you a woman,
Right.
I'm misgendering you.
Right.
Would
So-
that be illegal?
So could I turn you in for hurting my feelings?
Right. That's what we've come to.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
Brits, I know all of you are listening to me right now. And I mean, let's really think about this.
Mm-hmm.
I know I'm not I may be in the minority on this, but I mean, I'm sensitive to transgender issues. Again, if somebody, I don't necessarily agree with it, but if somebody as an adult decides that they want to live their life as the opposite gender, that's their choice.
Sure.
And, if they change their name and say, I'm so-and-so now instead of so-and-so, okay. I mean, I'm not going to make that a big issue of it. But don't expect me to buy into and start lying about the fact that biological men aren't biological men, that biological women aren't biological women, that biological men cannot give birth and have babies and breastfeed.
Right.
And, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do that. And you can't force me to do that. And I appreciate J.K. Rowling because she does have at least the wherewithal and the power to kind of push back and say no. But she's setting an example for others. Do not let them cow you. This is thought policing.
Yes.
And it's disgusting.
Yeah. I'm whenever I think about these issues and I look, I recall, since this is Flashback Friday, I recall what things were like in this realm back in the day. Somebody who, if there was a man who wanted to live as a woman, he did everything possible to pass as a woman, so that when you looked at the person, you would just say, "Oh, that's a woman," because they actually look the part. These days, you got men with full beards and long hair who walk around in high heels with their guns out, just looking every bit of a man in a dress, and they expect you to say "ma'am" when you refer to them.
Right.
And it's like, that's. I mean, what happened to the idea that if you believed in this, that you could actually become the other gender? What happened to actually trying to do that?
Right. This is about controlling other people.
Yes.
This is what that's about.
Yes.
This isn't about being your true self. This is about demanding that people call you by the right and in the specificity with which some of the designations are. It's ridiculous.
Oh, absolutely.
And you know what the controlling issue brings up in my mind? Just go across the Atlantic to Canada, and you've got Jordan Peterson fighting against the
Across
whatever
the border, you mean?
Yeah, whatever the psychology, what would be the professional society in Ontario. He's literally having to fight for his career just because he has a stance. And I'm reading here from part of his discussion regarding his views on women, masculinity, and gender identity, namely refusing to use people's preferred pronouns. And so now you've got the Psychology Society, whatever it is, up in Ontario, pushing back and telling him he's got to go to
re-education camp.
Yes, exactly. And then you've got Trudeau now cautioning that if you do hate speech, we may throw you in jail for life.
His pronoun is Castro. Just saying.
Oh man, yeah. It's amazing how quickly the Western countries are falling to this. It's I didn't think that this would be the hill on which our republic, our Western system, our Western way of doing things dies. But apparently, it may very well be.
It could be.
It's certainly the ideological hill. I think conservatives should be willing to die on, because if you give into this, if you give an inch on this, you're saying that reality doesn't matter so long as you exercise power properly against me, that you can make me not only think, not only say, but think what you want me to think. And therefore that everything's gone. Your autonomy, you are basically becoming a slave to the state.
Absolutely. Well, kudos to JK for pushing back. It'll be interesting to see how that kind of plays out, but kudos to her. Listen, when we come back, we are going to talk to one of my Red State colleagues, Banshee, about all the good stuff like from the State of the Union and the other top news items going on today. You're listening to the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show on News Talk STL 1019 94.1.
We give you news, analysis, opinion, and more. Only on News Talk STL. Mike Ferguson in the Morning.
I can see the path you're cutting. Cost me a little piece of my heart. I can see the doors you're shutting. 'Cause they were open at the start. Baby, loving you has been hard on me. You're such a tough little sister, just looking for Mr. Right. On the wrong side of town, you better not somebody.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Umbrellas are a must again today as a cold front creeps across our area and brings on and off rain showers. Very little thunder, but you might hear a rumble or two. Into the low 60s for mild highs. Once that front swings through this afternoon, winds turn cooler and the rain chances start to drop. So we're cloudy and breezy overnight, a few light showers possible, but they're spotty. And then gradual clearing for Saturday, but it's cooler and breezy tomorrow. Low of 41, high tomorrow of 50. Full sunshine for Sunday, a frosty start, but a decent high at 58. That's your First Alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
Missouri Wild Alchemy is a local and family-owned business dedicated to providing consumers with high-quality cannabis and education. They strive to make customers feel comfortable and to help curtail the stigma of cannabis use by having a professional and well-educated staff. They're proud to carry products from several Missouri cultivators and manufacturers. Missouri Wild Alchemy, now serving recreational customers 21 and above, as well as patients. Follow them on Facebook and Instagram, or visit MissouriWild.com. That's MissouriWild.com.
This is Larry Connor's commentary on News Talk STL.
So with Nikki Haley officially out of the battle, it's now on between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. That's assuming Joe Biden does carry the Democrat banner out of the Chicago convention. Things could change. But otherwise, it comes down to Trump versus Biden and, of course, their supporters. The editor-in-chief of The Hill publication says it is going to be a muddy, dirty fight. And, in fact, the editorial board of the New York Times already calling it out, saying this is a tragedy for the Republican Party. Trump has demonstrated contempt for the Constitution and rule of law. Already no holds barred, apparently, at least from the state-controlled media. But what about you? What kind of presidential fight do you want? Do you want one with civility, tea, maybe some crumpets, follow the Marquess of Queensberry rules, no spitting, no eye gouging, no hitting below the belt? Just trade words, ideas, philosophy, and stick to the script which we expect to hear and see. Is that what you want? Civility like that? Or are you really ready now to rumble with a cage match?
Get more Larry Connors on Larry Connors USA.
Tonight at 6 on News Talk STL.
Pigeons, they are everywhere, and they're very good at dive bombing freshly washed cars. Wellington Environmental reminds you those droppings are more than a nuisance. They can be a major health issue, especially massive droppings on buildings or in parking garages. So who do you call to safely clean it up? You do what many hospitals, universities, public buildings already do. You call Wellington Environmental. Wellington Environmental has been dealing with all kinds of hazards for 35 years. Special people, special skills, special equipment. Wellington gets it done. So to avoid health issues ranging from pigeon droppings to mold to chemical leaks, contact Wellington. 314-644-4930. 644-4930. WellingtonSTL.com. Wellington Environmental. Your world cleaner, better, safer. Be well with Wellington.
1949, the last time a Republican held the top post in St. Louis City. A gallon of milk was 84 cents, and streetcars ran down Grand Avenue. The city was booming. Unfortunately, St. Louis city streets are no longer the epicenter of family and business life. In the 80 years of Democrat control, our city has been on a steady decline. St. Louis City Republicans believe it is our duty to provide a different path forward. Learn more at stlouisrepublicans.com.
Paid for by St. Louis City Republican Pat Curtis, Farber Treasurer.
McGuire Moving will come to your home or office and give you a free, honest appraisal. Not over the phone. That way you won't be shocked come moving day. Really tight budget? McGuire will offer advice that could save you even more money. McGuire, fully licensed and insured, also has climate-controlled storage for you. McGuireMoving.com. It's that simple. Just remember, you're moving, anything, anytime, McGuireMoving.com.
If you find yourself feeling out of place in the world, it's comforting to know conservative values haven't been abandoned everywhere.
But I'm not going to turn my dial off, you guys. I really like this channel.
This is News Talk STL. Welcome home.
Hi, it's Randy Tobler here. Pour a big cup of coffee and catch my show every Saturday morning from 6 to 9. Right now, it's back to Mike Ferguson in the morning here on News Talk STL.
One of many requests we got for Flashback Friday.
Journey.
Mm-hmm.
The dulcet tones of Steve Perry. Welcome back, folks. You're listening to the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show and the dulcet tones of Susie Moore filling in for him, along with Gabe Pfeiffer and Stel Ponticus. And we are joined now by my RedState colleague, Banshee. Good morning, Banshee.
Good morning.
How are you?
Doing good.
Have you recovered from last night?
I think I've recovered.
Okay.
That was the most unhinged, crazy speech I've ever heard in my life.
Has he stopped shouting yet?
I mean that seriously. I mean, you guys watched it, obviously. The first 30 minutes, he was just shouting uncontrollably. I don't understand what presentation he was trying to give with that.
Yeah, it wasn't. Well, I know it wasn't designed to persuade me of anything other than that he's a ranty old man. But I mean, it definitely there was nothing engaging about it for somebody who either wasn't already in his camp or might have been kind of on the fence. I don't know how that would have brought somebody over to his side, if you will.
Yeah, if you're Joe Scarborough, you loved it. But other than that, I don't.
Joe Scarborough loved it before he presented it. So
I just, and I wrote this last night in my write up on it. I just have a hard time believing that. And is he 82 or 81 now? I can't keep up.
He's 81. He'll be 82 after the election, right?
I just have a hard time believing that an 81-year-old man screaming and shouting and banging his fists on the podium is going to appeal to swing voters. I could be wrong. It's hard for me to believe.
I think you're right about that. I do think that maybe part of the idea there is to shore up the wobbly part of his base, not the people that wouldn't necessarily vote for him, but the people that are doubting him because of his age and his acuity and his vigor. They certainly, had him pumped up and ready to go last night with energy, and maybe that was to sort of silence or put to rest some of the rumblings from his own camp about his ability.
Yeah, they wanted the talking point, and you can see it in the press this morning. It's all over the place. The Washington Post did the energetic and impassioned meme. So, I mean, they got their talking point. I just think, and maybe because a lot of people probably aren't going to watch the speech, they're not going to see what it really was. So I understand it could be a win for the White House. I don't know. We'll see in the next few weeks what the polling looks like. But I mean, I think if you actually watched it, you didn't see energetic and impassioned. You saw somebody, like you said, that looked like he was hopped up on amphetamines.
Right.
I mean, it was very, very surreal to see the first half of that speech. And then he kind of crashed later and kind of calmed down a bit. Of course, he mixed up he couldn't pronounce Laken Riley's name.
Nope.
So, I mean, that kind of busted his big moment during the speech. But, I mean, I don't know. We'll see how it turns out, but I'm not confident it's going to be some big game changer. And I'm not sure these State of the Unions are ever big game changers.
Yeah, I don't think that they necessarily are. And it'll be interesting to see the poll numbers next week to see if there's any little bit of a bump there. The one that I think might have been just a little bit, I was talking about this earlier. There was a speech that Donald Trump gave, I think it was in 2017, so it wasn't technically State of the Union, but it was the equivalent of that since it was his first, couple months in office. And that was when even his detractors were like, this was the night when Donald Trump became president. Because he gave a pretty presidential speech and he kind of showed people that he had it in him. And I think that moved the needle for him a little bit, but that was early in his presidency. And obviously that didn't really take away the Trump derangement syndrome that we see in so many people anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you kind of drew the contrast there as far as that speech was very presidential and the press proclaimed it as very presidential. Last night's speech was a stump speech.
No. Yeah.
And
it was
John, even CNN's John King said he'd never seen anything like it. Like it was angry, divisive. He started, one of the weirdest moments was he did it twice in about a 5-minute period. He looked over at the Republicans and started heckling them. Like it was so just, I mean, and I'm not big on the whole decorum thing, but it was just weird.
It was.
I mean, it was a very weird moment.
It was weird because it seemed like it was scripted in a way, but he didn't really pull it off right.
Yeah. Which is a trend for him anytime he's on the teleprompter.
Kind of his stock in trade.
Morning, Banshee, Gabe Pfeiffer here. So one of the things I tend to look at in the State of the Union addresses are proposals, basically, that the executive is kind of bringing up. Here's the thing that we're going to do. Usually State of the Union is kind of where you roll out a new program or something like that. Now, I didn't watch the whole thing. I was busy, but I did catch a clip of him basically saying that we're going to start supplying Hamas by building up here with our military. Were there any other crazy proposals that I missed in this crazy speech?
I mean, I think that's the biggest one. I mean, that doesn't make any sense at all to me. We're going to send, because you don't just build a port. You're going to have to send American servicemen and women into harm's way in the middle of rockets being fired and Hamas carrying out attacks and in one of the most dangerous areas of the world right now, to build a port to give food that's going to just be taken by the terrorists. Like it's a terrible idea. And that was really a bigger, I think, part of his speech last night. He was trying to was trying to assuage his radical base, the ceasefire lunatics who were blocking his motorcade before the speech. I mean, he was trying to make them happy and say, "Look, I care about this." But I think it's a stretch to say that's going to work, or that it's not a terrible idea. I mean, I don't get it at all. And there were some other things he said about student loans, and he lied about cutting the deficit, and there was nothing in his policy proposals that I think spoke to the heart of what Americans are dealing with. And this is something I noticed immediately. The first 20 minutes of the speech were Ukraine and January 6th, not inflation, not the economy. He didn't get to the border crisis till almost 45 minutes in,
Yeah.
So, I mean, these are the things that polling consistently says people care about, and he doesn't care about them. And I think that came across in the speech last night, even though he didn't mean it to.
I thought one of the interesting things too was, the contrast then between his delivery and Katie Britt's delivery, and I know there have been some detractors as far as the actual delivery, but the substance of what she said, I think, drew a very good contrast because she was addressing those kitchen table issues, literally from the kitchen table.
Yeah, and I think there were some issues with her delivery, like you said, but I won't beat up on her too bad. I think there were some issues there, but like you said, the content of what she was talking about were the things that Americans talk about and care about. And when I took my 3 weeks off from RedState and didn't write and didn't really follow politics much, when I was gone away from home for that period for some other real life stuff, and everybody I talked to, they didn't talk about anything but inflation. And I heard interest rates a lot too. Like, people cared that they can't buy a house, and these were people that I was meeting at the thing that I was at. And, and this was completely non-political. So I say that to say that people care about these kitchen table issues that she hit on last night. And in Biden's speech, he just brushed over them. It was, well, inflation's coming down. It was 9%. Now it's 3 point whatever percent. Well, it was 2% when you took office. So do you really get credit for that? I mean,
right.
And I think people see that and they understand what's going on with their bank accounts, and you can't gaslight them about that.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that in the end of it, I really question whether this moved the needle for anybody. It certainly gave us stuff to write about and talk about. And speaking of which, you mentioned you were gone from RedState for a couple of weeks, and I just want to be on the air and open about that. Don't ever do that again. You were very missed. We had people very concerned, like, where's Butch?
Yeah, they thought I got fired.
Yeah, we're like, no, he's coming back. We promise.
He's on assignment.
Yes, he was. But yes, his absence was very much noticed. He's one of our top writers, and people always enjoy his insights. What are you working on today, Banshee?
As soon as I get off of this call, I've got to start working on the father that was arrested last night for heckling Biden, the Gold Star father. So, and there's a picture of it that's now went viral. It's just a terrible optic for the White House, I think.
Pro tip: look at the charge he was charged with. Incommoding is a new word I learned today.
I have no idea what that means.
Neither did we.
Yeah, exactly.
Neither did we. You're going to have fun with it. Well, listen, Banshee, we appreciate you being on with us. Where can folks find your work?
RedState.com.
All right. And on Twitter, you are?
At Banshee RedState.
All right, folks, look him up. Thanks for joining us this morning. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Banshee.
All right. See you later.
All right. Stick around, folks. We'll be back right after this on the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show here on News Talk STL 1019 94.1.
Like us on Facebook at News Talk STL. Get up. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Hey folks, Tim Jones here. I'm here with Stewie. Stewie, tell us all about the bagel loan and how people can use it to compete with the competition.
You know what, Tim? Inventory is low. You're going to have to be aggressive out there. We're going to give you the bagel loan. Bagel loan means no closing costs, no title fees, no lender fees. It's the big bagel. Take that money you would save, add it to your bid. You'll beat the competition hands down. Do it now and do it in 12 days.
Close in less than 12 days. Call Stewie 314-324-4440, or better yet, just Google the bagel loan.
MLS number 226715.
You want to give someone something which they will really enjoy? Give them a Cafe Napoli gift card. You pick the amount, and they pick which of the Cafe Napolis they want to visit. Cafe Napoli in Clayton, Cafe Napoli in Town and Country, Napoli 3 on the streets of St. Charles, or right next door, Napoli C. The Napoli gift card. It's the perfect gift for anyone, or your entire office. Cafe Napoli. Cafe Napoli.
Freedom isn't just a word. It should be a way of life for all Missourians. Wouldn't it be wonderful to live in a state where you're free from excessive taxes, regulations, and corporate handouts, and free to send your children to the school of your choice? That's why we at the Show Me Institute put together our 2024 Missouri Blueprint, a roadmap on how the state can progress to a bright future. The blueprint covers policy ideas from a Bill of Rights for parents to government transparency, school report cards, healthcare reform, and more. Our vision is for Missouri to be a place where entrepreneurs can pursue their dreams, parents are free to direct the education of their children, and a growing economy provides opportunities for all. Critical to achieving this vision is a government that understands the value of freedom in the lives and future of our people. Check out our 2024 Missouri Blueprint, moving Missouri forward at showmeinstitute.org. The Show Me Minute has been brought to you by Show Me Institute and Show Me Opportunity.
This hour of Mike Ferguson in the Morning brought to you by Window World. Simply the best for less. 314-993-1800 or visit windowworld.com.
Hi, it's Dan Bongino here, and I'm proud to be on News Talk STL every weekday from 11 to 2. Right now, you're listening to Mike Ferguson in the Morning.
Haven't heard this in ages.
No. Oh, really? Oh my gosh.
It feels like the world is on your shoulders, and all of the madness has got you going crazy. It's time to get out, step out into the street, where all of the action is right there at your feet. Well,
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're gonna get going here.
Electric sky. This is so awesome. I love Flashback Friday.
See, we gotta wait for the drop though. We gotta wait for the. Okay, we have a show to do. Come on.
Oh wait, that's right. We are on the air, aren't we? Hi guys.
Hi.
Hi. Hopefully, yeah. Okay, I know I'm making a fool of myself, but I'm sorry. You hear music like that, it takes you back to your youth, and it's light and airy.
Oh man.
We could use some light and airy, right?
Yes,
I mean,
absolutely.
it's Friday. So
It's a party song.
It is. It's a party song.
For listeners wondering who it is, it's DeBarge.
Yeah, DeBarge singing with Corona.
Maybe. I don't know. I could use a Corona.
After last night.
Yeah, right? I did. So I've actually I've cut back on my alcohol intake. Not that it was like crazy bad before, but just because I was like, let's change it up a little bit. But I did allow myself one glass of wine last night for the speech, and I was glad to have it. It helped soothe a little bit. But one of the things that caught my eye yesterday in front of the speech, his cabinet came in. Biden's cabinet came in, and you got to see them all walk in, and then it was like, oh wait, who's the designated survivor?
Oh gosh,
who is it? Who is
yeah,
it?
Yeah, who isn't there?
They don't announce it until right at the beginning of the speech, but it was Miguel Cardona, the Secretary of Education. So, I'm sure he was having fun last night. Maybe he was having a glass of wine. But somebody who's no longer part of the cabinet, or technically the administration, is John Kerry, who's stepping down from his climate czar perch to work on the campaign because. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. That's going to go great.
Well, he's got an interesting observation that I think was maybe one of the dumbest things I've ever heard in my life. There's a war going on in Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been going on for 2 years. Russia invaded. It's a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
But here's what John Kerry has to say about it. He claimed that people would feel better about the ongoing war in Ukraine if Russia would make a greater effort to reduce emissions. If Russia wanted to show good faith, they could go out and announce what their reductions are going to be and make a greater effort to reduce emissions now, Kerry said during a foreign press briefing on Tuesday in Washington, D.C. Maybe that would open the door for people to feel better about what Russia is choosing to do at this point in time.
So they roll out their low emissions rocket launchers and then level a neighborhood in Ukraine, and everybody will feel better about it.
It's a show of good faith.
Yeah. I mean, hey, actually, why aren't people feeling good about it now? Because the thing is, humans are just carbon emissions,
Factories?
carbon emission factories, and he's just ridding the earth of some of them.
Right.
Why not feel better about the war because of that?
Getting rid of the oxygen teas.
Climate crazies.
So, yeah, I'm killing you, but I'm doing it with a small carbon footprint.
Right,
So
exactly.
That's my show of good faith. I really don't know, if he's just gone around the bend.
Leftists are so strange in that regard because they don't really believe in certain things. They can twist their minds into pretzel shapes that I'm not aware that the brain is capable of doing until they actually show me.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you paint a rainbow flag on a bomb, that makes it, inclusive. It's an inclusive bomb.
Right.
So that makes it a good bomb.
Right. Yeah.
Like that.
You're going to die with DEI.
There you go. Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
And you bring up the Ukraine tie-in. I'm just tossing this in case you want to comment on it. Victoria Nuland decides to resign.
Yeah,
she's the
that's
gal
interesting. No, I
who's
know.
kind of the head diplomat and responsible for a lot of the stuff that went on in Ukraine going back to 2014.
The timing of all this is kind of interesting, and it kind of leads to some speculation. But I just
It's sus, as the kids like to say.
It is sus. It is sus. Yeah, I mean, there's been a few big changes coming our way. Mitch McConnell is stepping down from leadership. Newland's resigning. Yeah, all this stuff, and there is that tinfoil part of my brain that's like, what's all going on in the background there? But you were talking about twisting your brain around to try and understand the leftist point of view. I mean, I used to be a dyed-in-the-wool liberal. I was never a leftist, but I was a dyed-in-the-wool liberal.
Yeah, leftists are crazy. Liberals are at least, there's
my brain doesn't quite understand some of this. I mean, there's some stuff that I look at and I try to tilt my head and squint and go, could I have at one point thought that? No. I think Kerry's just a dope.
Yeah, I think so too.
That's my conclusion on that.
Got to keep that grift going.
Well, you know what else is dope? Here is the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show. You're listening to it on News Talk STL 1019 94.1. We'll be back right after this, folks.
Tim Jones here with Dr. Kim Patton from Comprehensive Integrative Healthcare. Kim, you focus on the treating of neuropathy. What are the signs of neuropathy?
The most common symptoms are numbness, burning, cramping, usually in the hands and feet.
Tell me about the success you're having with your Restore Neuropathy treatment program.
Tim, our program includes 8 distinct steps, offering a unique experience from other treatments. No surgery, no addictive medications, and we are seeing a success rate of 95%.
Kim, that is incredible. How can people learn more?
Visit us online at CIH.health. That's CIH.health.
Sundays at 5 on News Talk STL.
All your hard-earned tax dollars and mine are going to fund illegal aliens who come across the border penniless, jobless, skillless, and they're given a cell phone, an identity, and a cash stipend every month.
Mark McCloskey on fire.
That beats your Social Security income if you should have the good nature to work your ass off your whole life and retire.
Mark McCloskey on fire. Sundays at 5 on News Talk STL.
Brought to you in part by Modern Weapon Systems in Fenton.
No paint, don't Rhino, go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
Never paint again with Rhino Shield. Listen to what a couple of happy customers have to say.
My family's business is over 10,000 square feet, and it did not have the curb appeal I wanted. Our building was really faded. You came out, you gave me all of these options that would fit my building. I don't want to have to paint my building again. 25 years is a long time to not have to worry about the outside maintenance of your building as far as paint. That's a no-brainer. That's why Rhino Shield worked for me.
What a wonderful job they did. It's beautiful. They were very thoughtful, kind, considerate guys. Appreciate all the work that these two young men did.
Call Rhino Shield, 877-25-RHINO, 877-25-RHINO, or 877-25rhino.com. See what we did there? Genius. Tell them, ladies.
No pain, don't Rhino. Go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
Breaking news this hour from townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason. The February employment report came in stronger than analysts were expecting. 275,000 jobs added last month. That comes on the heels of 353,000 jobs in January. February saw hiring gains in government, healthcare, and food services. The unemployment rate rose from 3.7% in January to 3.9% last month. Democracy is under attack, so says President Biden, one of the themes of last night's State of the Union speech. Another theme, he's pledging to advance abortion rights by taking the issue out of the hands of the states to decide.
If you, the American people, send me a Congress that supports the right to choose, I promise you, I'll restore Roe v. Wade as the law of the land again.
Mr. Biden also called for tax hikes on some Americans. The Republican State of the Union response delivered by the youngest Republican woman ever elected to the U.S. Senate.
Senator Katie Britt of Alabama says the president's address amounted to what she calls the performance of a career politician.
One thing was quite clear, though. President Biden just doesn't get it. He's out of touch. Under his administration, families are worse off. Our communities are less safe. And our country is less secure.
Britt noting that President Biden has been a politician longer than she's been alive. Bob Agnew reporting.
The military has given a green light to a return to flight of its fleet of Osprey aircraft, 3 months after a parts failure led to the deaths of 8 service members in a crash in Japan. The entire fleet was grounded December 6th, a week after that deadly crash. Watching Wall Street ahead of this morning's opening bell, the Dow futures are 9 points higher. NASDAQ futures are up 30 points. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Relief Factor, pain relief that's natural, pain relief that works, and pain relief that attacks the source of the pain. That's the experience of tens of thousands of Americans who are taking Relief Factor right now. See their incredible video endorsements at relieffactor.com and then order your 3-week quick starter pack for just $19.95. That's less than $1 a day. Find out if it can work for you like it works for me by ordering your 3-week quick starter pack today. relieffactor.com, relieffactor.com. Be the next success story.
Trish Regan provides the analysis you need each day on the Trish Regan podcast on the Salem Podcast Network.
The Democrats keep getting this one wrong. They think that they can just flip states. That suddenly all the Hispanics are going to vote for Joe Biden. And in fact, what you're actually seeing in places like Texas is Hispanics. They're overwhelmingly coming out in favor of Trump.
Subscribe to the Trish Regan podcast today on Apple, Spotify, Google, YouTube.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Umbrellas are a must again today as a cold front creeps across our area and brings on and off rain showers. Very little thunder, but you might hear a rumble or two. Into the low 60s for mild highs. Once that front swings through this afternoon, winds turn cooler and the rain chances start to drop. So we're cloudy and breezy overnight, a few light showers possible, but they're spotty. And then gradual clearing for Saturday, but it's cooler and breezy tomorrow. Low of 41, high tomorrow of 50. Full sunshine for Sunday, a frosty start, but a decent high at 58. That's your first alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Senior Memorial. Give Benjamin Schaefer a call at 314-866-8886 or visit memorialplans.com. Senior Memorial Heritage Protection.
Hi, it's Susie Moore. Come join me Friday, March 15th in beautiful Washington, Missouri. I'm the keynote speaker for Franklin County's annual Lincoln Reagan Banquet. Hear from your Republican candidates running for national and statewide office, dinner, raffles, and most important, support the Franklin County GOP. Just go to fcrcc.org for tickets. fcrcc.org. And I'll see you at the Franklin County Lincoln Reagan dinner. That's fcrcc.org for tickets. That's fcrcc.org for tickets.
Hey, Tony Colombo here for Gutter Pros. When Christine and I bought our new house, we knew the gutters were an issue, and after meeting the Gutter Pros team, we knew that they were right for us. Gutter Pros is your all-in-one gutter service team that offers a variety of affordable solutions, and they even offer free estimates, so there's no cost to you to find out if they are right for your home, just like they were for ours. If you're having a problem with your gutters, contact the Gutter Pros now, because with Gutter Pros, water goes where they tell it to. Call them at 314-656-7195 or visit gutterpros.com.
Mike Ferguson.
We the people.
Gabe Pfeiffer.
It's not rocket science. Rocket science.
Get up, can't you hear the alarm? Get up.
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
It's Friday!
It sure is Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And we're having fun here on the Mike Ferguson in the Morning show. You are listening to Mike Ferguson in the Morning, but it's not Mike Ferguson. It's Susie Moore filling in for him. And I'm here with my good friend Gabe Pfeiffer and Stel Ponticus. And we're going to have, do we have him? I was going to say, we are joined now by the one and the only Nikki Two Shows. Good morning, Nick. How are you?
Good morning. Thanks for having me on such a gloomy Irish day here in St. Charles County.
It does seem that way, doesn't it?
Yeah. So speaking of gloomy and Irish, what did you think of the State of the Union address last night?
Well, I'll tell you, I was kind of bragging to one of my friends last night, a colleague, that that was the first one that I did not catch live because I knew it was going to be a dumpster fire. I've been tired of being lied to by Senate leadership in the Missouri Capitol, and now with the executive branch giving their demented State of the Union address, I thought I'd, like Gabe, do something else. And I spent time with family. But this morning, just seeing the clips, it was like the best of bloopers episode of the Biden administration. And that was just one show. That wasn't even the whole season. But
right.
Oh, man.
The thing that stands out to me, like you all said earlier, is, building this dam or this port in Gaza. That's incredible that they're going to that extent to support Hamas, but also seeing the treatment and the maltreatment of Gold Star fathers. I know Mark Schmidt was down in Washington, D.C., but there was another father who lost his son on that horrible day. That was 100% preventable. And word just came in. I saw and I don't know if they just detained him temporarily, but I know he was put in cuffs last night after they removed him from the State of the Union address when he was tired of being gaslit by this administration and this demented old fart. We need to actually start speaking the truth. And hopefully, now that I think it was Saturday Night Live, the past couple shows have actually started to be funny, and they're making fun of everybody once again. And hopefully this is going to be the straw that broke the camel's back. Let's get rid of the filters. Let's get rid of the political correctness and actually put grown-ups back in charge.
Yeah, and you touched on a really good point there. I did notice that Saturday Night Live was acknowledging that all of Biden's surrogates are like, oh, he's a tiger behind the door, behind closed doors, behind closed doors. It's like, why is all that energy coming behind closed doors and not for the rest of the world to see, unless it's fake?
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll tell you, it's going to take just one person to stand up. I was having this conversation the other day. When I was in law school, it took one person to stand up and say that, the Democrat arguing that Roe v. Wade didn't go far enough, that a woman should have the ability at any stage of the pregnancy. This is Town Law 101. And I'm looking around like, what about life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness? I mean, you can't have any of that if you don't have life. So I started arguing, and after I debated and quite handedly kicked that Democrats behind, I had a bunch of friends. Oh, I'm glad you said that. I was going to say that.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen the same thing in the NHL and the NBA when you have players standing up saying, no, I'm not going to wear something that I disagree with. And finally, you had the NHL still doing their Pride Night festivals, but they're not mandating that the players have to wear all of that stuff. And Gabe, to your earlier point, I think you got the text. It was either a glory bomb or a gay bomb.
Yeah,
a bomb with the rainbow on it.
Yeah. Well, if you put a rainbow on a bomb, it becomes a glory bomb, or a gay bomb.
Okay.
Yeah,
or a gay
exactly.
bomb. You never know.
Yeah,
you never know.
Exactly.
There was a movie in the 80s called The Nude Bomb. It was a Get Smart. It was like a takeoff on the Get Smart series.
Oh, there you go.
I mean,
it
was legitimately a thing.
Well,
but
sometimes you get those in children's libraries in St. Charles County, since they had How to Bang Like a Porn Star in our library up until last year.
well, I mean, that's educational, right?
It is. And that's something that all kids, the Democrats, want to put in their hands so they can figure out, no, it doesn't make any sense.
Speaking of, I noticed that you retweeted this. What was going on in the house the other day that we had? I'm not exactly sure how I would describe the creature.
The person.
I think it was a person. It was hard to tell.
2 hands, ambulatory. It seemed humanoid.
Humanoid.
It was something. It was something. This same creature. One representative that I spoke to said it was a demon.
It's kind of what
I wouldn't disagree with her.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. I mean, I related it to an anime villain, but teach their
I
own.
thought it looked like kind of the winged monkeys from Wizard of Oz, only with a wig.
Yes. Well, if you could you remember that old mean guy that had the cat and Smurfs?
Yeah,
Yes.
Gargamel.
If you could blend that bad guy, the cat, and one Smurf, that's what you get.
There you go.
Okay.
It was like Drag Queen Hour 2.0. This happened last year. I missed it because in the Senate we were given a big press conference on the Police Citizen Control Board and trying to tackle all of the public safety issues in St. Louis. Well, down in the rotunda in the Capitol, there were about 10 of these people, including the blue avatar that you saw in that picture. And I had just so happened to catch it. The Senate, rather than debating bills, they got ticked off. The Senate leadership didn't like that Freedom Caucus was asking questions about bills. And after about 15 minutes, not even a filibuster, but after 15 minutes, they gavelled out at about 3 o'clock. So when I got back to the Capitol to do some work that evening, I see cars everywhere. I see, people dressed, just dressed down like in shorts and T-shirts. But then I saw the drag queens, and I didn't know what was going on until I turned on the house.mo.gov. You can stream all of these things live. And it was, I think thanks to tax credits coming in last year, whether you like them or not, now it seems like Avatar 3 is being filmed in the Capitol.
Apparently so. Well, this is what I didn't get. I mean, I know this was somebody who was advocating for allowing drag queen story hours or the benefits of drag queens, whatever. That person didn't look like a drag queen to me.
No.
I mean, I think drag queen and I think of a man dressed up in over the top female appearance,
Usually sexualized.
Right. And maybe there is arguably a place for that. Probably isn't the Capitol, and it certainly isn't our, libraries and elementary schools. But I was really confused because I was like, what is this? Who is this? Who is this speaking to?
Welcome to 2024 when a drag queen story hour is like Tales from the Crypt.
Yeah.
That thing was scary as can be, but it's sad when nothing surprises you anymore.
Well, that's true.
When you've got Democrats that have defunded the police. I told a colleague, Steve Butts, he's a Democrat in the city of St. Louis, I said, I never would have thought growing up in Ferguson and Florissant, where back then Democrats were basically Republicans. There were a couple things you disagreed on, but mostly you disagreed on the path on how to get to a shared ideal. But now you've got defunding the police. You have allowing boys and girls to chop off certain parts, saying, I don't know, they'll grow back someday. We actually had, I kid you not, I'm gonna quote Joe Biden, true story. This year in an education hearing, there was a bill on just making sure that boys don't go into the women's locker rooms and vice versa, and we're trying to pull the teachers' licenses of these teachers that are forcing these kids and brainwashing them into transition and keeping the parents out of it completely. And there was somebody who claims to be a doctor, and I kid you not, we can go back to the receipts earlier this year. They said, well, if you are a woman and you think real hard and you feel real hard about it, you can grow a what down there, even if you're a woman. That doesn't work like that. What world are we in where you now have doctors just spewing BS to support their side? I don't know. This is a strange year.
Yeah, I would say so. Nick, you mentioned the Freedom Caucus and have some of the little disagreements with the Senate leadership. What's the latest? Have you guys made headway on any of the kind of core items you're wanting to get done, or is it all just still a stalemate?
Well, it's almost like a toilet bowl. Sometimes when it starts swirling around, you think you're going to make some momentum, and then it goes all the way back to where it previously was, and at some point, it's just going to go down the drain. And at this point, I think this dumpster fire does need to go down the drain, or somebody hit a reset button. We did get the IP reform to the floor, as we saw some very soft Republicans took out some amazing pieces. We hear that the House is going to load that back up with those pieces and send it back to us. We did get some good things done this week. There was a criminal omnibus bill that had several pieces of mine. There were some other pieces that some of the Freedom Caucus members disagreed with. I'll just have to agree to disagree on their assessment of it because I actually did sponsor a couple of those pieces in the past. We did pass out of the Senate this week an eviction moratorium stoppage. We saw people like Cori Bush and others trying to allow squatters to stay in private property owners' homes during COVID and not have to pay any bills. So we're putting an end to that. There were a couple other good pieces on starting to trim back personal property taxes, not a full repeal, but starting to chip away at that. And we've got a bunch of good bills on the agenda for next week as well, including education reform. And that's something that I wrote a piece. I should have reached out to you, but I was so ticked off hearing all of the chicken little sky is falling garbage from one side, and it just doesn't make sense. This is a core liberty, personal liberty concept that has been in our party platform ever since Reagan. When the Congress passed this stuff in 1979 to create the Department of Education. Before that, we were dang near number one and the global leader in education, and since then we've fallen to lower than middle of the pack. And I think ultimately it's the Department of Education, which we need to get rid of. We need to cut the strings, but we also need to empower parents with the choice to make with their dollars for their kids on what is the best educational institution that they should be going to.
Yeah, no, couldn't agree more. And I hope we see some progress on that next week. It seems to be an issue that you can reach agreement on.
Nick, in our last minute here or so here, tell us a little bit about the Radiation Exposure Compensation Act. I really wanted to talk about that.
Yeah, so that's something that Josh Hawley, Senator Hawley's been pushing, and lo and behold, I just mentioned her in a bad way a couple seconds ago, but Cori Bush has been helping out as well with that because the radiation exposure left, a lot of people with these debilitating cancers, even killing individuals. And this is the radioactive material that the federal government put in our backyards in St. Louis and now in St. Charles County and in several other states as well. So this would try to provide some compensation, not entirely what needs to be done. I think more needs to be done from the federal government. But the one person that came out and spoke against this recently was Ann Wagner. So hopefully she'll change her tune. I think these people do need to be compensated when the federal government is the tortfeasor here.
It's puzzling, definitely puzzling. Well, Nick, we appreciate you joining us today. Definitely. Can you let folks know if they want to follow along with what's going on in the legislature, what's the best place for them to do that and the best place for them to keep up with you?
Yeah, the best way to keep up with me is nickschroer.com. That'll link you up to all of the entertaining social media that I have and the trolls that follow. You can go to house.mo.gov to follow the House, senate.mo.gov to follow the Senate, or tune in every Sunday here on News Talk STL. We just moved. We're slowly getting to the big leagues. 6 to 8 p.m. now instead of 8 to 10. 6 to 8 p.m. Stand and Fight with Nick Schroer.
Awesome, Nick. Well, thanks so much for joining us this morning. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Nick.
Yeah, thank you all. Have a great weekend.
All right. Folks, stick around. When we come back, we've got more to talk about, like, immigration and the New York subways.
Oh, gosh.
Lots of stuff to talk about. So stick around, folks. You're listening to the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show on News Talk STL 1019 94.1.
I won't say Nick has the best trolls, but
Don't try to make me stop. No inspiration. You have a soul so dark. It is no more.
Like and subscribe to us on Rumble. News Talk STL.
Making cold my heart to fight your war. Stop it right now.
Get up, St. Louis. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning.
I see your indifference. Stop it right now before you blow us all away. You wanna do that now? Get up, can't you hear the alarm? Get up.
Are you fed up with paying too much for lightning-fast doctor visits with too little information? Well, I was too, and decided to create an alternative. Hi, it's Dr. Randy Tobler here, asking you to take a look at no copay, no deductible visits with me and my team. That's Body of Health Direct Primary Care. Let's face it, the system's broken. No respect for your money or your time. So learn about a better way for your primary care. Schedule your discovery call today at bodyofhealth.com. That's bodyofhealth.com, shepherding you to medical freedom.
My friend, death is certain. Are you prepared? Larry Connors here. I don't want to scare you, but your funeral plans are an important conversation you need to have with your spouse, family, other loved ones. My friend Benjamin Schaefer at Senior Memorial can help find you an affordable final expense life insurance policy, regardless of your health condition. You could qualify up to $30,000 of lifetime coverage. Life insurance plans with Senior Memorial also offer living benefits towards hearing and diabetic supplies, access to a 24-hour teledoc service, discounts on urns, caskets, tombstones. Call my friend Benjamin at Senior Memorial and discover your legacy at 314-866-8886 or visit memorialplans.com. Memorialplans.com. Senior Memorial Heritage Protection.
Staff Sergeant Mark Anthony Madrid.
Staff Sergeant Samantha Cowell.
I'm Staff Sergeant Alex
Staff
Keeler.
Sergeant William Lewis, and I am proud to defend my family and our nation.
The Air Force Reserve is part of the story of this great nation.
I'm grateful that I have a chance to wear the uniform of the heroes that went before me.
I am proud to be part of a team that helps make a difference in the world.
Every day, men and women from communities across this nation serve as reserve citizen airmen. Even as technology evolves and changes, our commitment to defend and protect this nation remains steadfast. We celebrate those who have served and those who are proudly serving. We celebrate our proud history and look towards an exciting and uniting future. Our mission is to fly, fight, and win in air, space, and cyberspace.
And I am proud to be a member. And I'm proud to serve in the United States.
And I am proud to protect our country.
Proud to serve in the U.S. Air Force Reserve.
News Talk STL.
First thing in the morning and pretty much all day.
Live and local. 1019 and 94.1. News Talk STL.
Hey there, Tim Jones here. Make sure you join me and my buddy Chris Arps this afternoon from 4 until 6 p.m. right here on 1019 94.1 News Talk STL. Right now, let's get back to more of Mike Ferguson in the morning.
She grew up in an Indiana town, had a good-looking mama who never was around, but she grew up tall and she grew up right with them Indiana boys on an Indiana night.
Flashback Friday and Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers.
Gotta love it. Tom Petty leaving us was a heartbreaker, I tell you that. That was sad. In fact, we went to a concert that night. The Avett Brothers were here in town, and they did a tribute to Tom Petty that night, and I think the entire house was, like, bawling. So, you are listening to the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show, folks. This is Susie Moore filling in for Mike today and reminiscing. Because Stella's playing all the good tunes.
Oh, yeah.
Really
Flashback
is.
Friday's the best.
It's my favorite day. I think I would like to make every day Flashback Friday.
It's funny to see listeners commenting about, hey, go ahead and dance there, Susie.
Yeah, I can't help it. I mean, I'm a complete goober. I will freely admit it. I'm not, an expert dancer, but when music, it's on, spirit moves me, I'm dancing.
You got to move.
I got to move. I'll even sing for you, too, and I apologize. But, something that I'm not going to sing about, and I am going to turn serious here for a moment. We touched on this last night during the State of the Union. Marjorie Taylor Greene wore a T-shirt to the event that said, say her name, I think is what it said. And it was referencing Laken Riley, who's, of course, the young nursing student from Georgia who was unfortunately and tragically murdered a couple weeks ago while out for a jog. And the perpetrator has been identified, and he was, of course, an illegal alien who had been in the country, been detained and arrested several times and should not have been in the country, and yet here he was. And it's sort of that story is sort of the poster child for the dangers and the ills of illegal immigration. And of course, Joe Biden hasn't really had much to say about the Laken Riley situation in particular, and what he has had to say about the border has to do with his pitching a fit that that Congress will not pass his approved immigration bill, which is all about Ukraine funding. Go figure that one out. But Laken Riley, of course, was a young lady's name, and so he was clearly prepared for someone to shout that out at him, because we're 45 minutes into the speech. Marjorie Taylor Greene does finally say something about, say her name. And he says, say her name. And then he picks up, and I don't know what he had in his hand.
Yeah, I have no idea what that was supposed to be.
It was like a white or tinfoily shiny object of something. I don't know what it was.
It wasn't the button that MTG gave him before the speech? I heard that there was something.
Maybe. I couldn't tell what it was in his hand. But then he said, first of all, he said Lincoln Riley.
He did.
And
Lincoln Riley is a different person.
Yeah. It's a real person.
Yes.
It's not this person. And then he said something about, I'm going to mess this up. Something about, she was killed by an illegal alien. So now the left is pissed off at him for calling the perpetrator an illegal alien. And then he said, how many people have been killed by illegal immigrants? But I think he said it wrong. I think he was trying to...
He's trying to make a comparison.
But he left off words and he said the emphasis wrong. So it just came out horrible. And I'm sorry. I know, unfortunately, this young woman's tragic murder has been politicized. But if you're her family and you see that reaction from the president of the United States, who hasn't bothered to reach out to you.
Oh, gosh, no.
I don't know. I would be livid.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, again, as I'm acknowledging this up front, the situation has been politicized.
Yeah.
That said, we're talking about politics. Yesterday, before the head of the Union, the State of the Union address, the House of Representatives passed by a 251 to 170 vote the Laken Riley Act. So it's a bill that would require the detention of any migrant who committed burglary or theft, and they named it after her. So basically, they're saying that's what this guy had been arrested for before. They weren't heinous crimes, but they were serious crimes, and he'd been arrested but hadn't been detained. Not detained long enough to notify ICE and have a detainer placed or anything. And because of that, he was free to roam about the country, as his brother was too. And here we have him, then committing this awful, horrific act. So they did. They passed this bill. They named it in honor of Laken Riley. 251 to 170. 37 Democrats joined all Republicans present in voting yes. So all the no votes were Democrats.
Of course. And it's that's a minimal change to the law.
Yeah.
To me.
Yeah.
That's a drop in the bucket.
They just didn't want to give the Republicans a win. That's all that was about.
Absolutely.
And, will it go anywhere? Probably not. I don't know that the Senate will take it up. I don't know what will happen with it. I doubt Joe Biden would sign this bill. Although he wouldn't want the optics of vetoing this bill. So that's why the Senate probably won't take it up to prevent him having to deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
But, I'm somebody, obviously, who is politically engaged. I follow this stuff pretty closely, and it's hard for me to keep track of, what measure is where, who's voted on what this amendment means, that sort of thing. There's so much sort of process type stuff going on, and then unless you're right in the thick of it, it's really hard to sort out. But the House did pass H.R. 2, which is an immigration reform bill, last year.
Mm-hmm.
And then that went nowhere.
Right.
And now you've got Joe Biden and the Democrats and some Republicans, the squish Republicans, insisting that this thing that they cobbled together and worked on it for months in secret was the answer. But they didn't persuasively make that case, and they tied it to funding in Ukraine, which is its own issue.
Yep.
And so what it says to me is that nobody really wants to get anything done.
No. Well, and the other thing too is you actually look at the provisions that the Biden administration, essentially, and the Democrats kind of jammed into that whole idea is that they're not even looking to increase, the funding for Border Patrol for them to do their job, prevent illegal immigrants from coming in. It's basically to make them more efficient, valets for bringing
processing
them in. And it's just like, when you look at, how disingenuous that move is in and of itself, it puts a point on the tragedies that we have that happen to people like Laken Riley. Now, and actually, let me amend that. It's not just a tragedy. It's tragic when something happens out of the blue.
Right.
It's unexpected. But the thing is, these things are expected when you have a lawless border. These things are expected when you have lawless cities. Mm-hmm. And the lawlessness there is somebody's fault.
Yeah.
And that's the real problem. That's why these things become political. If this was just a random happenstance in an otherwise low crime environment and things like that, we would simply say this is a tragedy. I hope the guy gets what he deserves. Mm-hmm. That would be it. This wouldn't be a political thing. It would be very much focused on the people who experienced that loss and making sure that the guy who perpetrated it gets what justice has coming to him.
Absolutely.
But that's where it would have stopped. But because the environment is set up by Democrats, it's set up by the Soros-funded DAs, it's set up by the lack of enforcement, the Mayorkas lack of enforcement that's going on at the border. Because all of these characters are involved and they have their hands in it, and we have receipts to directly point to the fact that they created that environment. It's somebody's fault, and the proverbial and political heads need to roll. That's why this is a political issue.
Amen. No, I agree with you. And you know what? That really actually kind of highlights the other story I was going to talk about. Kathy Hochul ordered the National Guard in New York into the subways to help. Now, the way they've couched this is weird because it seems like they're talking about like searching people's bags, and I don't know that people carrying weapons in their bags is really the issue with the subways. But they're not there to police as much as they are to kind of help, I guess, vet the crowds. I don't know.
They're an intimidation.
Not sure, but
factor.
The irony there is, of course, Tom Cotton caused all kinds of hell for the New York Times 3.5 years ago, when he suggested that in relation to all the rioting that broke out in the summer of 2020, that the National Guard be brought in to address it.
Right.
And he wrote an op-ed that was published in the New York Times, and everyone, needed their fainting couches at the New York Times.
Oh gosh, so many pearls were clutched.
The editor had to step down. I mean, that guy resigned. And it was this horrible thing that he could even suggest bringing in the National Guard to deal with a crime issue and blah, 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 blah. And here's Kathy Hochul going, hey, come on in, National Guard.
Just straight up deployed them to do what they're not supposed to do, actually. But domestic policing is not the job for any U.S. military force.
No.
Which is one of the problems. It's like one of the things that was trending on Twitter because of that was martial law. The term martial law, because that's usually what happens when you've got the military doing police work domestically.
Well, I mean, they had to bring him in. They brought him in Ferguson.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because things got out of hand.
Yeah.
So, but it's kind of ironic that you've got the same Democrats who are, screeching about defunding the police and how horrible Tom Cotton was for suggesting the National Guard being involved when things were like spiraling out of control.
It's massive destruction.
Come on
everywhere.
in, help police the subways.
Billions of dollars of destruction.
We want everybody to feel safe on the subway, but so I guess they don't feel threatened by the police and National Guard now.
I don't know. This is the leftist gymnastics, mental gymnastics that I was just talking about. It's like they're twisting themselves into pretzels, they're doing backflips, they're doing back bends, they're doing a crab walk and all these other things in order to appear as though they have some manner of a consistent ideology, but it's not consistent because it's built on nothing. That's the thing. When you have an ideology that doesn't have a solid underpinning in things that are true and right, then you can make yourself believe anything and say almost anything.
It's true.
That's why men are women, and Joe Biden is a good president.
Can't build a house on quicksand. Can't do it.
Exactly.
Can't do it. Stick around, folks. We'll be back right after this here on the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show, News Talk STL 1019 94.1.
She grew up in an Indiana town, had a good-looking mama who never was around, but she grew up tall and she grew up right with them Indiana boys on an Indiana night.
Like and subscribe to us on Rumble. News Talk STL. Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Well, she moved down here at the age of 18. She blew the boys away, it was more than they'd seen. I was introduced and we both started grooving. She said, I dig you, baby, but I got to keep moving.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Umbrellas are a must again today as a cold front creeps across our area and brings on and off rain showers. Very little thunder, but you might hear a rumble or two. Into the low 60s for mild highs. Once that front swings through this afternoon, winds turn cooler and the rain chances start to drop. So we're cloudy and breezy overnight, a few light showers possible, but they're spotty. And then gradual clearing for Saturday, but it's cooler and breezy tomorrow. Low of 41, high tomorrow of 50. Full sunshine for Sunday, a frosty start, but a decent high at 58. That's your First Alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
Fox News commentary.
The Biden administration admits your tax dollars are being used to secretly fly illegals into your country. I'm Tommy Lahren. More next.
Hi, I'm Martha Stewart. Every year, more than 4 million pets enter shelters here in the United States. My friends at American Humane have been helping animals since 1877. The goal is to ensure that pets have a safe shelter, especially during natural disasters. Adopting a shelter pet allows shelters to help more animals awaiting care. Please consider adopting today and take some time to learn more about American Humane's other work at americanhumane.org.
The Biden administration has been forced to admit to flying at least 320,000 illegal aliens from their country of origin directly into the U.S. on secret flights. They use the CBP One app, which allows them to apply for asylum, travel authorization, and temporary humanitarian release from airports. They are then released into the shadows via parole. Thanks to the Center for Immigration Studies, we know CBP approved these secret flights of hundreds of thousands of illegals into at least 43 airports. The Biden administration refuses to reveal which airports these illegals have been flown into, arguing the disclosure could create national security vulnerabilities. Want to take a whack at the national security vulnerabilities created by flying hundreds of thousands of foreign nationals into our airports and into our country? I'm Tommy Lahren, and you can watch my show, Tommy Lahren is Fearless, at Outkick.com.
Did you know one of the best investments you can make? It's in yourself. At My Computer Career, in just a few months, you could start your new career in the high-demand, recession-resistant field of information technology. Isn't it time you invest in you and start a career in networking, cybersecurity, AI, or upskill to boost your current IT career? So, get the ROI you deserve at My Computer Career. No experience necessary. Start now at mycomputercareer.edu.
Financial aid is available for qualified students, including the GI Bill.
At Consumer Cellular, you get the same exact coverage as the largest carriers, but for up to half the cost. Same thing, up to half the cost. Up to half the cost for the same thing. 50% the money for 100% the same thing. I hope I'm making myself clear. Consumer Cellular. When freedom calls, we're here to answer. Call us at 1-888-FREEDOM.
Half the cost savings based on cost of Consumer Cellular single-line 5GB data plan with unlimited talk and text compared to lowest cost single-line postpaid unlimited talk, text, and data plan offered by T-Mobile and Verizon May 2023.
News Talk STL is proud to have Doug Voss of Safe Money Radio as part of our lineup each week. Doug has been a staple on St. Louis radio for many years as one of the leading financial experts in the area. Doug and Safe Money Radio is on 3 times every weekend, but in case you miss anything, you can check it all out at DougVossSafeMoneyRadio.com or call 844-676-SAFE. That's 844-676-7233. Doug Voss is a registered representative. Securities offered through DHL Securities, LLLP. Member FINRA and SIPC.
Hey, I'd like you to get to know Dr. Daniel Cusimano and Dr. Megan Dwyer. Those are dentists and my dental team, along with their dental team at Advanced Dentistry of St. Charles. You know, whether it's economic value with their dental savings plan and their real concern about giving you value, which is, of course, quality at a great price, or whether it's their personal values, their dedication to absolute precision. I can tell you when I go in and get my treatment there, or just a cleaning, whatever, it's always, I get this feeling it's like laser-guided precision. Well, yeah, they have lasers, but they don't do that for everything, of course. It's the right tool for the right job. Whether it is dental implants, whether it's just general dentistry, cosmetic dentistry, and by the way, he can use some Botox in all the right ways for those applications as well. You'll find the greatest of care, the greatest value, delivered with people who have real values, the values we share at Advanced Dentistry of St. Charles. Get to know them by calling 636-978-0226, 636-978-0226, or advanceddentistrynow.com. That's Advanced Dentistry of St. Charles.
Hey, it's Katie, reminding you to subscribe to our show podcast so you never miss anything that happens here at News Talk STL. Get our podcasts every day on the show pages at newstalkstl.com, or just subscribe to your favorite shows on Spotify, Apple, Google, Amazon, or anywhere else you get your podcasts.
Hey, this is Larry Connors. Make sure you're listening later today at 6 o'clock on News Talk STL for my show, Larry Connors USA. Now, back to Mike Ferguson in the morning.
I get up in the evening and I ain't got nothing to say. I come home in the morning, I go to bed feeling the same way. I ain't nothing but tired.
The video that launched Courtney Cox's career.
Yep. The little dance.
Absolutely. Hey, folks, you're listening to the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show here on News Talk STL. Susie Moore, honored to fill in for Mike today while he is out playing old man baseball, and joined again by Gabe Pfeiffer and Stel Ponticus here in the studio. we are rolling into the last bit of Friday here on the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show. How did that happen really fast?
It just goes by really
time
fast.
flies when you're having fun.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things I wanted to talk about was this idea that was floated, no pun intended, yesterday by the Biden administration, and Joe talked about it in the State of the Union address. This new plan is going to order the U.S. military to build a floating pier off of Gaza to assist in allowing aid to be brought in.
Yeah.
Because I guess trying to go through Rafah's issue because Egypt's building a wall and saying, don't come through here. We don't want them. And then you've got the airdrops, and that's kind of... So, yeah, I'm puzzled by this.
Yes.
I'm extremely puzzled by this from a logistical standpoint and from a practical standpoint and from a political standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Joe's got me befuddled all the way around.
Yes, he's a very confusing man.
Logistically, I'm not sure how the military builds and constructs a floating pier off of Gaza without being very much present in the area and very much, therefore, susceptible to attacks by, the Iranian proxies that keep going out of their way to attack U.S. assets.
Yeah.
Seems to me like it's just painting a big old target on our back. And
It
how
is.
does that not get us further embroiled in the conflict?
Yeah, I mean, just imagine what would happen if let's say we lost even just one of our service members to a foreign attack. Maybe we actually identify them as Hamas.
Mm-hmm.
Hamas attacks and kills U.S. personnel in country.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how do you respond?
Right,
Joe. Now it's like okay. Do we now assist? Do we now assist in the destruction of Hamas, or do we sit back and let them continue to pick us off? You're creating the opportunity for that situation by getting involved this way.
He's creating the no-win situation.
Yes.
It's not just finding himself in it. He's actually creating it.
Mm-hmm.
So that seems ill-advised. And I understand. I mean, listen, I do. I have tremendous empathy for and feel badly for the people of Gaza that are not directly supporting Hamas and its efforts to annihilate Israel. I know there are people caught in the crossfire here, literally, and the bottom line there is that could all be over today.
Yep.
If Hamas would say, okay,
yeah, we surrender.
We surrender.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very easy answer. Why? I don't know why anybody that's calling for the ceasefire isn't calling for that.
That's actually what should be being called for. If you're interested in life and in protecting people's lives and justice, if those are two really, really important things to you, you wouldn't be calling for a ceasefire. You would be calling for Hamas's surrender.
Right.
Because that's
they're the bad guys.
Because they're the bad guys, and they're the ones who are not only continue keeping this war up, but they're using the innocent people as human shields. So if you actually want the killing to stop, if you actually want justice to be done in this situation, that's what you would be calling for. But of course, no, they want a ceasefire because they want Israel to lose. It's not that they want the people to win in terms of being able to live. They would just want Israel to lose, and they're willing to sacrifice innocent lives to do so.
And I'll go a step further. If you really want peace for the region, if you really want Palestinians to live peacefully and to that Gaza Strip to be rebuilt into the beautiful place it once was, well, why don't you call out Iran?
Yeah.
How about that?
Mm-hmm.
Because they're the ones stirring all this up to begin with. So, okay, I'm sorry. I'm just calling baloney on. Sorry, came close. I'm just calling it.
Yeah.
It's not sincere. It's
No.
all about politics. It's all about optics. And the funny or ironic thing, not funny, thing about this too is that I guess somebody in the administration, I don't know if this is a Jake Sullivan creation or Kamala Harris, I don't know who came up with this idea, but I think it was in theory designed to placate the people in the U.S., the Muslim population, particularly in Michigan, Minnesota, that have been, pushing for a ceasefire and protesting the administration's Israel policy.
Mm-hmm.
But it completely misses what their aim really is. Because if their aim is really protecting the people in Gaza, yeah.
This isn't going to do it.
No, I mean, if they're not going to vote for Joe Biden in November because of his stance on Israel, him building a pier off of Gaza isn't going to be what does it.
No,
it's going to be him calling out Bibi Netanyahu to his face and saying, "You got to stop this right now. We're going to make you stop this."
Yeah.
Then they would probably vote for him.
Yes.
But then the rest of us, not that I was ever going to vote for him,
all
but
of us
then,
knowing people,
right? The vast majority of Americans, including the ones who vote Democrat, are not going to be okay with that.
I couldn't imagine in World War II FDR rolling out a program where he's going to build a new a floating pier off of Rostock, Germany, in order to make an aid corridor for the innocent civilians of Dresden. You know what I mean? Does that even make any sense if you put it in those terms?
No.
Right?
No.
But that's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about right now, is that in a war of essentially annihilation, Israel's going to annihilate Hamas, or Hamas, if it gets its way, is going to annihilate Israel. In that sort of war, the only type of victory that is possible or that means anything is a total victory over Hamas.
Yeah.
And because of the nature of war, innocent people are going to get caught in a crossfire. The way you protect innocent people is you end the war, you gain that absolute victory as fast as possible.
Right.
And doing all this other bull crap is just prolonging the problem.
Yeah. I mean, it's plain as day.
Yeah.
I don't even know how it's debatable, and yet we have this administration bungling its way through it and making things worse and exponentially worse instead of better. I mean, I will say, Biden did, I'm pretty sure, if I recall correctly, he did mention the hostages. Yesterday was the 5-month mark.
Mm-hmm.
The people, first of all, they're still dealing with the trauma of that horrific day, October 7th. Secondly, there's still close to 100 people that, as far as we know, are alive and are being held hostage.
Including American citizens.
For 5 months.
Couldn't imagine.
I mean, what are we doing? It's just, I don't know. It's so maddening, and I mean, ultimately, I want us to find solutions. I want us to move forward in positive ways. I want to offer constructive criticism. I want whoever our leaders are, whether they've got a D or an R behind their name, to have our country's interests first and do what's best for the American people, and then to the extent that they can to help our allies.
Yeah.
They're not doing this.
They're not doing either of those things.
No.
And it should be clear. There are a lot of really complicated issues, and I think our next topic is going to be one of these complicated issues. But this one should be a no-brainer.
It should be. You would think. But apparently not.
No.
Apparently, yeah, and I don't know. I mean, I get a little worked up.
Just a little bit.
I might need to dance again just to kind of work some of that out.
Oh,
We're going to come back
go.
and talk about that thorny issue right after this here on Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show, News Talk STL 1019 94.1.
I get up in the evening and I ain't got nothing to say. I come home in the morning.
Follow us on Rumble at News Talk STL.
Same way, I ain't nothing but tired. Man, I'm just tired and bored with myself. Hey there, baby, I could use just a little help. You can't start a fire. You can't start a fire without a spark. This gun's for hire. Even if we're just dancing in the dark.
Get up, St. Louis. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Messages keep getting clearer. Radio's on and I'm moving around the place. I check my look.
The Herzog Foundation is the vision of its founder, Stanley Herzog, and it exists to promote and accelerate the development of quality Christ-centered K-12 education.
Hi, this is Daryl Jones, president of the Herzog Foundation. Our primary goal is to advance Christian education so that families and culture flourish. The legacy of Stan's business career centers around making national transit ecosystems accessible and sustainable. Likewise, the legacy of Stan's philanthropy centers around making the ecosystems of Christian education more accessible and sustainable for families across the nation. Visit HerzogFoundation.com to learn more about our programs, including trainings, scholarships, conferences, news, and our podcast, Making the Leap.
Visit HerzogFoundation.com to learn more and sign up for The Lion, an initiative of the Herzog Foundation that carries articles covering a wide range of issues facing American families and culture. HerzogFoundation.com.
McGuire Moving will come to your home or office and give you a free, honest appraisal. Not over the phone. That way you won't be shocked come moving day. Really tight budget? McGuire will offer advice that could save you even more money. McGuire, fully licensed and insured, also has climate-controlled storage for you. McGuireMoving.com. It's that simple. Just remember, you're moving, anything, anytime, McGuireMoving.com. Pigeons, they are everywhere, and they're very good at dive bombing freshly washed cars. Wellington Environmental reminds you those droppings are more than a nuisance. They can be a major health issue, especially massive droppings on buildings or in parking garages. So who do you call to safely clean it up? You do what many hospitals, universities, public buildings already do. You call Wellington Environmental. Wellington Environmental has been dealing with all kinds of hazards for 35 years. Special people, special skills, special equipment. Wellington gets it done. So to avoid health issues ranging from pigeon droppings to mold to chemical leaks, contact Wellington. 314-644-4930. 644-4930. WellingtonSTL.com. Wellington Environmental. Your world cleaner, better, safer. Be well with Wellington.
Columbo and Katie.
It's Friday, and after taking a shot of whiskey and saying a prayer, we made it through the 2024 State of the Union address by President Biden. We'll get Ken Williams and Gabe Pfeiffer's reactions.
Weekdays at 2 on News Talk STL.
Dan Bongino here. Keep it on News Talk STL because my show starts at 11 a.m. Right now, it's back to Mike Ferguson in the morning.
It's Friday!
More of that great Flashback Friday music. Thank you, Stell. You are listening to the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show here on News Talk STL. Susie Moore filling in for Mike today. I'm back on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Good to be here again while Mike plays old man baseball. And in the few minutes we have left here, I wanted to talk about something. Katie Britt, who is a senator from Alabama, she gave the rebuttal last night to the State of the Union address. We talked about it a little bit earlier. The substance of what Britt had to say was phenomenal. If you go back and look at the text of her speech, it was great.
Just read the transcript.
The transcript. Her delivery was uneven.
Yeah.
Some of it was good. Some of it was a little breathy.
Mm-hmm.
Some of it was
a little overacted. Yeah.
Over dramatic.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she clearly had practiced it many times, and so she delivered it like confidently, but at the same time, it was just, there was some of it that I think probably didn't ring as authentic as she would have liked for it to land. But overall, her message was very good, and it was a very interesting contrast to see her, the 40-year-old young woman from Alabama, not shouting, and following the president's grandpa ranty thing. But one of the issues that she brought up, and it was fitting because it has to do with Alabama, was the IVF discussion.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's become a thing because the Alabama Supreme Court, and I have not read the opinion, so I'm going to just kind of do the 30,000-foot view of it,
right.
not getting into the weeds. But the Alabama Supreme Court recently ruled that embryos that were stored in an IVF facility they basically granted them personhood.
Right.
They recognized them as persons and therefore allowed for wrongful death action to be brought against the facility that damaged or destroyed these embryos.
Mm-hmm.
And that created an uproar, which
mm-hmm.
is not surprising.
Sure.
Because you're talking about their embryos in a container in a lab as opposed to implanted in a woman's uterus.
Right.
They're potential pregnancies. They're not actual pregnancies yet, and so I know that this touches on a very difficult issue. Now,
yes,
the Alabama legislature and governor moved very quickly on this to enact immunity for these facilities, because one of the things that the effects of the ruling was that IVF facilities in Alabama said, whoa, we're not doing another thing
mm-hmm.
because we do not want to be held liable for this.
Right.
So people that were like actually in the process of going through in vitro fertilization and on their cycle and doing
mm-hmm.
the different, they couldn't actually go through with the process.
Right.
So you created a lot of problems.
That is a big problem.
So now I am pro-life.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that IVF gets into a very murky, and trying to conflate IVF and abortion is disingenuous. They're related, but they are
Yes,
separate issues.
They are different, definitely different issues. There's a philosophical crossover in that where our belief is that when at the moment of conception, right? This is the basis. At the moment of conception, you have a new person. Now, of course, this is based on the idea of natural conception.
Correct.
Right? So it's like, okay, well, this and our argument tends to be, okay, individual genetic makeup and all these things. Like, this is a human organism that is alive, therefore it is a person.
Right.
Right? Now, you take that out of the womb, and all of a sudden it gets a little weird.
It does.
IVF in particular, because the process by which all of that happens, it actually necessarily destroys a number of fertilized eggs.
Yeah.
Like just in the way the technology is. Maybe it's a lack of maturity of the technology, but we're not capable of making sure that every fertilized egg is implantable, first of all,
right,
and that it will survive implantation, second of all. So there's a lot of gray area when it comes to IVF versus your standard abortion.
There 100% is, and we're not going to. Maybe we'll carry this over to Monday too, talk about it a little bit more, because there's a lot of nuances there. I will tell you, just to be clear about this, I am the proud aunt of a 24-year-old product of IVF.
Okay.
Actually, IVF and surrogacy. My niece is a miracle baby, and so I've obviously emotions attached to the process too. That I realize that these are difficult questions, but one of the things that was clear to me is the abortion issue is very tricky. For some reason, it's a tricky messaging issue for Republicans. That's something else I'd like to talk about.
Yeah.
And now, timing, we've introduced IVF into the equation.
Yeah.
And that carries with it a whole lot of other things. But one of the things that's clear is that most Republican politicians are like, whoa, hold up. Hold up. That's a bridge too far.
Right.
We do not stand for that. We support IVF as a process. We support, people participating in IVF, and we do not want IVF clinics to be held liable for, something like that. I mean, obviously, if they do something negligent,
deliberate, yeah.
Right. So it's an interesting conundrum. But again, something I'd like to talk about a little bit more when we have a little bit more time. But
certainly.
Definitely, you're going to be hearing a lot about IVF, or as Joe Biden puts it, AVF.
Oh, boy.
In the coming months. It's going to be a thing. Who knew?
Oh, my gosh. That's one thing I don't want Joe Biden talking about. Actually, I don't want either Joe Biden or Donald Trump talking about this issue. I'm actually afraid of what a debate would look like if this question comes up.
Well, that assumes there's going to be a debate.
That's
Now,
a good point.
I know my Miss Cleo misfired last night, and Joe did actually give the State of the Union address, or deliver it, in one way or another. But I would be willing to put some good money on there not being
a debate. Yeah.
I mean, they can't risk it.
No, I wouldn't.
They can risk the bad optics of him not participating in the debate. They can't risk putting him on a stage with Donald Trump.
Do you think that risk is enough to make them rethink his candidacy to begin with?
Well, if it was, they should have already done it a long time ago.
You'd think they'd start moving people out, but I don't know.
We'll see.
Yeah.
But no, I'd put good money on that. Well, folks, we appreciate you joining us here on the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show. As I said earlier, you can listen to us on the radio. You can watch us on all the streams. You can check out the podcast. Susie Moore, I've enjoyed filling in for Mike today. Glad to have Gabe and Stell here with me. We'll be back on Monday. Hope you have a good weekend. And in the meantime, here on 94.1 1019.
Tony Colombo here, along with Tim Jones, for Rodney and Jen Wallner, the Wallner home selling team at Berkshire Hathaway. Rodney and Jen are the #1 home selling team in the area, and I can say that from personal experience. They sold our old home faster and for more money than we thought possible, which put us in a great position as we tried to find our perfect new home. And with help from the